is going to have to be the quote unquote religion of tomorrow. If it isn't, you're fucked. Totally and absolutely. Metaphysics, if it isn't, you're fucked. Absolutely. Totally and absolutely. Metaphysics, if it isn't, you're fucked.
Yellow.
Totally,
Yo,
absolutely.
Yeah,
here
it
we
does.
go.
It just gives me. It'll just let me know I can join the call.
Oh, okay. It's a
It,
silent ring.
it doesn't ring at all. I just get. It doesn't give me a pop up or anything. It'll just the green bubble will appear at the top of the chat now.
That's pretty lazy of Skype.
Listen, I don't know. It's free. Let's not. Let's not stare this gift horse. Fuck.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I can't complain about it being a free app. We take a lot more shit from free apps than we take from paid apps. So that's the way it goes. And playing Zoom ain't fucking playing with nobody right now. Zoom got popular during the pandemic, so they was tapping all pockets. And like
Mm,
if you have a conversation on Zoom, you get like 45 minutes and then we shut you down. If you want to have longer than that, you need to pay us immediately. If you want to talk to more than two people at once, pay us immediately. Skype's like, I don't give a shit, bro. Do what you want.
right.
So I gotta respect them. I gotta love Skype. I'm happy that they're here, and kind of fuck Zoom. You know, like if Skype has been doing it this well, this long, and still a viable company, I gotta think you could let people have more than a 45-minute conversation without it cutting into your profits. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I think.
I mean, they track us. They record all our calls. I mean, the data mining, isn't
Turn that
that the
down, please.
prize?
I'm recording.
Aren't all of these apps profitable to some degree, selling our information? My God, what more do you want?
Man, they're bastards. That's just the way that goes. They are
Look,
rat bastards.
how did syphilis start?
Hmm. I don't know. How did syphilis
Bothering
start?
me all week because people have to fuck to get syphilis. I know the AIDS story. I mean, I think we all know AIDS. AIDS
Yeah.
was a laboratory and unleashed on the world like the coronavirus. But syphilis, it's before people really. I don't think germ theory was really understood when the cases of syphilis were springing up. I think Napoleon notoriously died of syphilis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I understand the AIDS narrative. Hey, there was a monkey had AIDS, and and certain diseases can exist in other species and not really bother them.
Right.
But if it crosses, it could fuck you up if you're of another species, if it figures out how to infect you. So it's kind of makes sense that it's plausible. Somebody got sexually curious, fucked an ape, then went back to fucking people and it spread. At least that was the official story.
I
Like,
don't. I don't like
buy
it.
into it. Nah, I don't
I don't like it.
get which comedian it was that made the point. It's like, listen, you don't go from fucking apes to fucking people. That's just not a normal transition. Like, if you're fucking apes, you're all in. That's just
Right.
what you do. But you're not gonna like, I fucked an ape and now I'm kind of in a person mood,
No.
obviously. But with syphilis seems like you only can get it from fucking. So who got syphilis first?
Hmm. Well, it had to get dosed. Somebody had to purposely introduce it into the population. Then that's the only way I can think of.
It's a mystery. It's a
Yeah.
chicken and the egg kind of thing.
It's simple as just some kind of genetic mutation, and somebody passed it on. Was it just something that existed in the body and it had to be awakened by environmental factors?
But then wouldn't you see more cases of it that weren't, because it's known as solely a sexually transmitted disease.
Right. Right.
Like hepatitis, you might get it from, pulling some gum off the bottom of the desk and chewing it. You don't know who chewed it first. because you're just gross and bored, right? Or, maybe you accidentally lick a toilet seat or something. Like,
Accidentally.
so- right. There's other ways to get it besides just fucking. Same thing with AIDS. You get it from, you could get it from needle usage. It's not just fucking, but it's mostly fucking, right? But syphilis, my understanding was, it's pretty much you just getting it from fucking.
Mm.
So it doesn't make sense. Otherwise, wouldn't there be other cases where it just started developing organically in people, sans the sex? There's some environment.
Syphiligenesis.
Right, syphilogenesis. How did it happen? I'd really like to know. Otherwise, I'm just going with my Alex Jones answer for everything is interdimensional pedophile demons that are just putting shit into the populace. Here's how you make guns, and here I'm sprinkling syphilis on some of you. That's how it goes. Now go fucking spread it. That that's my go-to for everything now. I'm like, it's probably some Enochian shit. It's probably some fallen angels just sprinkled some syphilis juice on somebody. Because
I,
otherwise, I
yeah.
can't I can't figure it out. It doesn't make sense. There should be other cases just popping up sporadically.
God, yeah, I never thought about that. Is syphilis from animals? Is it a zoonotic disease? Is this one of those things? It says, who is this guy? Rui Diaz, the physician, acknowledges syphilis is an unknown disease so far not seen and never described. Oh, this is okay. That was the onset. It started in Barcelona, Barcelona in 1493, and originated in Hispaniola Island, part of the Galapagos Islands. Somebody was fucking reptiles. I don't know, dude.
I
I don't know.
wonder
There's
what
still debate over the.
evidence.
It says there's still debate over the origin of syphilis and how it spread to different parts of the world. Yeah, this is some Yakubian shit right here. This is some. This is weird, bro. Columbus's seamen, no pun intended, who first arrived in the Americas in 1492, brought the disease back to Europe following exploration of the Americas. So somebody now okay, so they're saying it originated in somewhere Hispaniola,
Dang,
Spain,
really?
but now they're
It
blaming
was from
Americas.
Mississippian rape.
Yeah, yeah, it was the rape exploits that brought the syphilis. Gosh, dude, yeah, I don't know. That's a weird one. I never thought about that.
And even the name, it sounds like it's probably like some Greek god or something. I don't know. I hear syphilis, and I picture some, Greek tragedy or something, like the tragedy of syphilis and Hypatia or some shit.
That's too
So I,
close, right?
yeah, so I feel like there's some mystery hidden in there, where in a roundabout way, whoever named the disease was kind of telling you, like, yes, the interdimensional Yakubian pedophile aliens, they
The
sprinkle syphilis juice on you.
Gosh, the origin of the word syphilis in a 1530 epic poem, Italian physician Hieronymus, well, he's got a wild name, as the name of his poem's protagonist, a shepherd afflicted with the see, a shepherd afflicted with the dreaded disease. So it came from a character. Somebody named it the character that, but and he was suffering from a
Ah,
disease.
okay.
A shepherd
Yeah,
boy who insulted the Greek god Apollo and was punished by that god with a horrible disease. See, this is weird, bro. This is weird. You got the name of your disease from a person who insulted Apollo. Apollo ain't even the top. He's like a tertiary god. He's like just around the outside. Nobody really worships Apollo, and he struck you with a
oh,
disease.
he's the sun god, though.
Yeah, but nobody cares about Apollo, bro.
I don't know. I don't know.
Apollo's like
They,
he's isn't he like they depict him fairly effeminate sometimes. He's not like Zeus, Zeus get busy, but he's a manly god. Apollo's like he looks like a girl until he reveals his tiny penis.
yeah, but he's still the god of the sun, and the sun is God's eye or whatever. The sun was seen as God, so it seems like that's a pretty. It's almost like a default setting for God. And I'm sure if you do like the
Yeah.
etymology on Apollo and see all the other times the word is used, like, I gotta think it's more significant than that. I don't
Yeah,
know. I don't
he's a
believe.
super girly man though. If you look at you look at the Apollo statues and art and stuff like that, son is yeah, he's bugging. He's out here looking like a lady 100% of the
Yeah,
time, pretty much.
yeah, but everything in Greece was kind of,
Yeah, that's true. They did have yeah, they had a flair for effeminate men. It was not a bad thing to them to be all soft and supple as a dude until you get around to even I guess even the original, like, the Hercules and all that shit. Those guys wasn't super duper buff until a lot later, until people start realizing like, oh, you can't do none of that stuff if you're a girly man. You got to be like a fucking, you got to be the mountain, you got to be the rock, you got to look like the rock to do all of that.
right.
Hercules can't pull that off, not the way he looks. He don't look like he can lift anything.
That might be the origin though, where being super fit and homosexuality kind of started. Like if you were
Yeah.
too, it's like, that's gay. I think that might be that that kind of gay's origin story. Like I was just hearing because I got introduced to this. I watched this video where they were breaking down this book called The Gay Report, which was like in the 70s, and they took like all these surveys with these stories from different groups within the gay community. Um, I don't know how legit it is. It's supposedly still cited by people that study that sort of thing now, but some of these people like had a lot of knowledge of gayness. Like they go into like historical arguments. Like one of the dudes was going into like in defense of it, was like, well, the Greeks, like it was because there's a lot of we should be allowed to fuck boys opinions in there. So it seems to be very candid. Um, but
Mm.
there, I guess it was a practice in Greece where, like, like I'm a dude, you're a dude, and I introduce you to my son, right? I'm like, hey, maybe you can show him the ropes. You can like be his sponsor and whatever. And it's like you basically, dudes would like initiate their sons to like a family friend, you know, to the joys of man love. And like you'd gotta have a sponsor. Like he'd bang you and maybe help you through school or something. Or maybe teach you a trade. Like that was like a common practice supposedly.
Okay, so tutelage, I guess. You know what I'm saying? The gymnasium makes sense. And that's
The
how they get
Greek,
down. The Greeks, bro. I mean, listen. I have to say, at the very least, you gotta respect the fact that this wasn't just some back alley, seedy undercover behavior. Like that was just a clear part of who they were. I don't know that. Now I haven't studied all this shit, of course, but I don't remember seeing any other culture
right?
that depicted their homosexuality so openly and like celebrated. They got pottery with dudes wrestling at each other, grabbing at each other's pipes and shit. Like they didn't give a shit. I feel like most other people in the world would like, I don't think we should be doing this. Like it feels great, but I don't think we should be doing it. And the Greeks were like, nah, we love butt stuff, bro. Like it's just it is what it is. You got to deal with it. So I respect it. I respect it, dude.
Yeah.
If you're doing it and you're hiding it in caves and sneaking around and you're leaving your wife's bed to go snuggle up with the what they call him, the horse boy, the stable boy, like that's not respectable. That's not respectable. But if you build a whole gymnasium where people bring their young male children for tutelage and trade, I mean, hey, who am I to have an opinion on that? These are, hey, you do what you gotta do, bro. You do what you gotta do. The Greeks didn't give a shit, and they left a hell of a legacy because people still blame them for it today. No matter where homosexuality exists in the world, especially here, there's something special about America, the Caribbean, black people and their relationship with this idea of homosexuality. Even though it's so common, they still, a lot of them still don't accept it as a natural occurrence, right? So I get saying that it's not natural as far as procreation and shit. Like I get that, but to still act like it's not something that manifests itself
Actually,
in the world and nature, like this shit happens. It's not like it don't happen.
right, right.
If two male swans They mate for life, right? Swans mate for life. So if some kind of genetic anomaly takes place that makes these two male swans find each other attractive and try to bone each other, they it kind of it's over, right? It's after them. They don't get to adopt babies and take them to the swan pride parade or no shit like that. They just swim off in the sunset with each other and remove themselves from the gene pool.
Yeah, South Park kind of, because I grew up in an era where it wasn't accepted, um, and it wasn't. But I think I was in between. I wasn't in the era where it was accepted, but I was after the era where it was just like you have to go after them and hate them. Like it was right in the middle where it's kind of like,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know, we don't know. And I remember that episode in South Park about the gay dog, and when I got confronted with the idea, because I guess I never really thought about it before, because I didn't know anyone gay or have any relationship with somebody that was gay to like know about it, and I didn't have any family members that were openly gay that I would know about. So I just never given it much thought. But once I was confronted with the idea, it's like, yo, the animals are gay.
right,
I'm like, all right, then there's got to be something more to this.
right.
I don't know. I can't make sense of that. I can't explain this away now. But you're right. It does get attributed um, to the Greeks, and I don't think it's because it's exclusively to the Greeks, but like you said, just the pageantry with which they created it and integrated into day to day society. Let's come up with naked, oiled up wrestling. Like let's really just get it. Let's get down with this.
Dude,
They
yeah,
definitely, but everything. There's something, and I think that's why a lot of these ideas are so prevalent in academia because they see themselves as the heirs like to the Greeks. I mean that's really Western civilization. That's really where we trace it back to. And if
yeah,
you and if you kind of go further, you got to put Egypt in there somewhere. But for the most part, they attribute everything with the Greeks because they wrote a lot of this stuff down where you can like, especially with the mathematical stuff, you could argue that Egypt demonstrated knowledge of it, but they didn't document some of the theorems and complex mathematical premises that the Greeks got. So really, it's the start of the atomic bomb. So I get it. Modern civilization starts with the Greeks. Why? Because they're fucking around with numbers that would eventually allow us to blow people off the face of the earth, and they were really into blowing each other. It's modernity. Modernity starts with the Greeks. I get it. But they see themselves as like the heirs to that Greek culture, and there's something like almost elitist and sophisticated about it. You know, like they kind of touched on. I don't know if you ever saw on Netflix the House of Cards shit with Kevin Spacey.
yeah. Oh yeah, I saw like the first maybe first season or maybe some of the second, but I never like finished it. But I definitely seen it.
Okay, it was pretty good for at least the first three seasons. I don't even know if I watched the whole thing, but I don't know if you ever got to the part where he linked up with his old college buddies.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. So, and they were just really casual about it. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
we're married, we got wives, but it's just, we're enlightened. It's kind of just a part of this fraternity, like being in this, like even that, like fraternities, like we're gonna name them with the Greek alphabet, and it definitely comes out and says that in that shit in House of Cards. It's like it's appropriate for just dudes to bang each other every now and then. It's a part of just being enlightened. You know what I mean?
the
Like
gay play. Yeah.
yeah, but not even just gameplay, but just like we're learning ideas that other people don't know. Like we're elite, we're part of a fraternity, we're in secret societies, we're privileged to something that other people just aren't a part of and they don't understand. And but it's almost like a sign of enlightenment. Like you don't know that there's 72 genders because you're not enlightened. Like
Right.
you don't know that all of these things exist on a spectrum because you're not enlightened. Like you can't measure the circumference of the earth with the shadow cast by a tree. You can't do that, but we can. And you know what else we can do? We can bang each other. It's all a part of it. It's all packaged together. So, I don't know. It's like almost an unbroken chain, and maybe that's why a lot of the conspiracy theories about elites is, now it's all about the kid touching, but it was always, especially when you go into the black consciousness chat rooms, it is like, oh yeah, they're all gay. It's the gay mafia. It's all a big gay cabal of like secret societies of just gay dudes. Gay dudes run everything. It's the Greeks. Greeks run it all.
Yeah, they started it. They invented it. It existed nowhere else in the world. No other two dudes in the world have figured out that, you know what, we don't necessarily need girls. We could just rub on each other. That'll be fine. Like, nobody else ever did that math. It happened only in Greek society. That's hard for me to believe. That's very
Yeah,
hard for me to believe. I don't know. Like I said, everybody else hit it though. No, nobody else was like, "Fuck it, I don't give a shit."
right.
Give a
But
shit.
it kind of made me mad. It kind of irritated me in the movie 300 that they depicted them dudes with no touch of femininity, the Greeks.
Right.
But then when you see I forget who it was, if it was Xerxes,
Xerxes. Yeah.
yeah, but he's just as gay as the day is long, and he's just super effeminate, and it's
Yeah.
like, minute, this is some projection right here.
Oh
This is
yeah.
shit. It's like all y'all were waiting in the mountains for this dude to show up, but he's the gay dude. While y'all
Right.
were waiting, y'all were all snuggled up,
Yeah,
bang.
and they were known to fight naked, take all their clothes off. So when Xerxes showed up, they was laying there naked with swords and shit. Like everybody knows how they got down. But to put it all on Xerxes and the
Right.
Persians was like somebody's leaving something out of the story here, buddy. I don't know.
I
But they
thought
was
that
too
was
tough.
fucked up.
They was too tough. Nobody wants to equate battle hardened, gangsters with homosexuality because it has to be effeminate. They see they're still trying to box it in to the binary of male female, even though a lot of people do a lot of times, even
Yeah.
in the homosexual or gay community, whatever you want to call it. Even in that community, there's people that take different roles because of their personalities or whatever. I've even seen on YouTube people complaining that I don't know if this was something about Atlanta specifically, but somebody showed a clip of a dude in Atlanta saying that he's tired of going to places or party. I don't know, whatever. He's tired of going to these places and there's no tops. He's like,
Man,
it's all effeminate bottom dudes just hanging around waiting for some big
waiting for the
masculine bear guy to come in, like, and they're all just a bunch of flimsy, no disrespect, but they're all a bunch of, like, ladylike flimsy gay dudes, and they're pissed because the party don't have no real men in it. You know what I'm saying? So like even there, people are definitely taking roles clearly, but
absolutely.
I guess it's hard for people to understand how you could be totally just a bunch of gangster bears, and like, because I guess it's the math that's hard to do there is where's the attraction coming from? Like, there's got to be somebody at least pretending to be a girl for you to be attracted. Like, how do you get aroused if it's nothing but beards in this room? Like, big, tough, bearded guys. This ain't supposed to happen. The 300, they're like, well, let me show you something.
I wonder what they call that because it's a sausage party, but in a different way.
Right.
Like it doesn't. It's not the right kind of sausage that's there.
Yeah, because
Like
sausage party has a bad connotation. Like, if somebody says it's a sausage party, that's not a party you really want to go to. So
what?
if
What?
if they
No,
love it,
no, but no, 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 no. But this is what I'm saying though. But it's the same principle because it's like a bunch of girls that don't have a dude.
right?
Like sausage party for heterosexual men is okay. There's no chicks here, so what we want isn't here. This is a sausage party, but the bottoms they got the same thing then,
That's a peach
right?
party.
A peach party, a peach party, brilliant. There you go. And I think I got the next brilliant. think I got the next brilliant movie idea, and we're in the perfect climate for it too.
Oh, I feel like this could be made by the people that made what's that movie with Kevin Hart and all the dudes? Oh, they where they go like they're it, oh, was it the not 90-day rule? Something like yeah, like you think like a man. That's what it is. Think like a man. I think the people who made Think Like a Man, because they also made Girls Trip, if I'm not mistaken. I think they would make Peach Party.
I think they could make Peach Party, but I had something else in mind. Hear me out now. We have the perfect climate to retell this story because I think we agree 300 as we saw it, that's all America was ready for. And so they had to project all the gayness on Cersei's, right? And so the gay dude was the enemy.
Right.
I think we're ready to tell that true story now.
Mm.
I think we're ready to have a movie where Xerxes is just a big, hairy dude, like back hair, big old beard, just a big, burly, homophobic. I hate the Greeks. The Greeks got to die. They do this gay shit. And then the 300s, they're the dudes that the Peach Party is waiting on. They are just some super shredded, badass, murdering motherfuckers, but they have the tenderest, gayest, like frolicking with each other. But then when it's time to murder, I mean, they get down and they murder. And I think you could retell or remake 300 and do it the right way. Because clearly the way that they did it, like I'm kind of surprised that the homosexual community hasn't complained more about 300, because clearly they downplayed the gayness of the heroes, and they made gayness the hallmark defining feature of the biggest bad guy.
That's
Isn't
true.
isn't that kind of fucked up when you think about it? So
That's true.
I think we're ready to remake that movie and tell the truth about the 300, and make Xerxes a dinosaur racist bigot.
God, yeah. Xerxes shows up, and all the 300. They're super burly, but they're all rubbing on each other and fucking. He's like, "What the fuck is
What's
going
going
on?"
on?
He's all weirded out. He's disgusted. He's like, "Yo, carry my throne the fuck away from these dudes right now. What the hell are they doing over there?" He tried to sneak up on him and shows up a little too early, and they busy. Yeah, boy. Yeah, that's a great movie. That's a great movie. 300 retold a little bit more historically accurate. That is amazing. Yeah, Xerxes was big gay. He was big gay. There was no other way to play that character. That's how he was written, to be like a rape threat almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a rape threat.
Wasn't
And
even
like, yeah, the power of the army. Not only is it trying to take over without being invited against your consent, but just him and his whole the way he was moving, the way he was touching Leonidas and shit. It
right.
would have been the other way around.
It would have been completely the other way around.
Wow. The 300 would have been like, yeah, come a little closer, Xerxes. Yeah, come stand over here by me. I'll show
Right.
you.
If Xerxes showed up getting down like that when he walked off the throne or whatever, there would have been no war. There'd have just been straight banging.
Right. Son had
It,
panties on too. He's like gold panties on. And
it was so. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't even subtle. Like, it's really fucked up that the 300 were the gay ones, and they made the main antagonist flamboyantly over the top gay. He was the enemy. So I think the gay community needs to lobby to reclaim the truth of that narrative and redo 300. I don't know what the first one was. It called 300 or the 300?
yeah, I think it was just 300.
So yeah, this is the way we play it. We call it the 300 to update it, and instead of 300 in red, it's in pink, and we read
Mm.
the story. 300.
300. Written in pink. They got pink. Yeah, yeah. They all straight up fucking bare gays. And while they waiting for Xerxes to get there, they're just having a fucking orgy. It's like we got to relieve our stress. Be ready when the fight comes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's gonna piss some people off for sure.
Absolutely. But it's I would be more I would watch that movie. I've never seen Brokeback Mountain. Not like for any kind of like I refuse. I've just never been interested to see it. But
Yeah.
I would watch the 300. I think I could even get past the over the top gay scenes. I'd probably just be chuckling at them if I'm
Yeah.
being honest. Be
Well,
juvenile.
yeah, there's nothing like it's all Reed's gay, of course, it's hilarious, but there's nothing over the top gay. I'd say other than Xerxes being a 6'9" rape threat his entire existence in the movie. But, but I did watch Brokeback Mountain. I forced myself to watch it to make sure I wasn't a homophobe. Also, same thing with the movie called Moonlight. It was like winning all these awards about some black gay dudes in the hood and how they whatever, and it was so popular. Everybody was saying it was so good and it was winning awards. I was like, I need to, like, why am I avoiding this? Is it something? Am I a dinosaur bigot, or can I actually watch it? So Moonlight, I enjoyed as a film. You know that some of the underlying foundational shit in there is about dudes being gay and how they navigate it. So, but it didn't feel like it was exploitative or just gratuitous. It was just part of the story, and I thought the movie was dope as fuck. Now, Brokeback Mountain, on the other hand, Brokeback Mountain was disturbing. It was disturbing. It was disturbing because everything that we know coming up in the era that we came up in being young dudes, everything that we know about homosexuality, a lot of it comes from movies with prison rape scenes in them.
Right.
Right? There's no like, oh, these two guys fell in love and they kissed and shit like that shit. It just
And
wasn't there for
I,
us coming up. It was like, yeah, you got raped in prison and maybe you stayed that way because you were in prison so long or whatever. That's how you become gay. You get raped and they convert you. It's like a zombie bite. It just keeps fucking spreading. But in Brokeback Mountain, these were supposed to be, well, I think one of them was supposed to be just a regular straight guy. The other one obviously had some homosexual experience. And he just kind of like, they had one of those passionate moments where you just stop fighting it and you go for it. Like they just crash into each other and start kissing and all of that. And so they kissed each other for about 8 seconds, and then one guy spun the other guy around and went right in his ass. And I was just like, I don't know if that's how that works. Somebody's going to the hospital.
no, he spit first though. He had to spit.
Even if he did, somebody's going to the hospital, bro. Like, there's no way that you can barely do that with a woman.
I
You can
mean,
barely
back
do that with a woman. You grab a chick, you kiss her for 10 seconds, and then you just try to go straight in. There might be some discomfort. Not even going in her ass, like just regular. No, well, not to be not that penis and vagina is regular. Right? Can't say that. But even if it's just vaginal penetration, you go right in like that. There could be some discomfort. So
oh
for it to
yeah.
be a dude who claims to have never had any type of homosexual activity before, I don't know if that's how that works, bro.
Well,
I,
here's a couple of things. Let's think about the hygiene in the 1800s.
no,
I,
no,
I'm sure
no.
when he spit, sure when he spit, there was some thick, frothy, like tuberculosis phlegm
Oh
that
God.
got on his dick to really lube it up good. And this is pre-bidet.
Mm.
So I gotta think they're out there, they're squatting, eating fucking cans of beans and fucking game that they hunted down.
Oh my
I
God.
mean, they're not wiping with 3-ply. You know what I mean? Like there's some the hinges were greased. I gotta think that the hinges were greased. The that's the one thing. Like I almost feel like I should probably not do PDA in front of people that I know are homosexual because they probably are just as disgusted by it. But this is one of those things where like I don't know if I'm a bad person or not. But if I'm being honest, anytime I see movies like that or because I've seen it because they have scenes on TV. There's just something about it. Whenever I see like the tenderness that I'm accustomed to seeing between a man and a woman, like noses pressed up against each other. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I can almost take the American Me rape scene more. Like that doesn't bother me as much as seeing like two dudes that are just nose to nose, like looking up into each other's eyes and then kissing tenderly. Like that just but it's not like something where like, okay, I hate you. And it's the same way I feel like if you microwave fish in the break room at work. Like, why would you do that?
You
That's
have
just
no
great. You know what I
respect for the rest of us.
no, 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 but you know what I mean? Like it's the same way, or like if you don't eat bacon. Like I eat pork now. I gave up on this notion that pork is evil. But there was a time when I didn't eat any pork at all. And if you had pork around me and you cooked pork around, it would just bug me. The smell was just so off-putting to me. You know what I mean? So I think it's just something like it's in your biome or your genetics. There's something that's just in there. Who knows? Like you stay away from something long enough, something just creeps up. Or if you're wired a certain way, something is going to be the same way. Like if you see a snake or a roach or something, you're like this isn't dangerous, but something in your genetic history or
Oh
your
yeah.
your chemical processes just tells you like, you're supposed to be revived of this. There you could, it for whatever reason, there's something somewhere deep in your genetic programming that probably kept us alive. That's what I chalk it up to. So that's just how I think about it. Like in the same way I would, you don't kill all the people that eat pork, but if you smell pork being cooked, you're like, that's kind of gross. And so that's one of those reasons too. Like I don't think I've ever watched those movies because it's something that, and again, I don't know, maybe it makes me a bad person. I'm just trying to be honest about it. But like when I see that kind of tenderness between dudes, it it makes me uncomfortable. Like it doesn't make me rageful, it doesn't make me hateful, it doesn't make me want to be violent, but it's just something that's like, I don't know. Again, in the same way, if I wasn't eating pork and you cooked pork in front of me, the smell would just kind of bother me. Like, you got to fry that bacon right here. It smells gross.
I'm pretty sure that makes you a homophobic terrorist.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. You're a
Damn.
homophobic terrorist. If you see men showing affection towards each other and you cringe, that's basically Hitler.
I can't explain it because, and I feel nothing. I feel nothing when I see two girls. Two girls, it doesn't bother me at
See,
all.
there it is.
I, just be honest. I don't know why it is. I don't know why it is with you
Because you
guys. I
like
can't.
girls,
Maybe.
and now it's just two of them, and they're doing stuff to each other that I want to do to both of them.
But you know what? I
It makes
gotta think.
perfect logical sense.
I can't think of a dude though. I gotta think that a gay dude would like if he had to watch Cunning Lingus, he would be grossed out.
And he would also be a bigot. That would be dinosaur
But
bigotry.
I don't think I think if you're applying the universal standard, you'd be right. But
Right.
I don't think really.
No.
I think gay man can joke about how disgusting a woman's vagina is without any fear of reprisal.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's just part of the culture.
I don't think there's any gay dude who's worried about losing his job because he's like that big vulvy fucking wide mouth bass looking. It looks disgusting. It looks like some shit that you'd see at a fish market. It's unnatural. It's
And in the
disgusting.
same breath, he'll call his own anus a wet bussy.
Is that the term for it? Bussy?
Bussy. Right.
Wow, I've heard that.
Right. Yeah, bussy. Let that linger. Just let that. You know what I'm saying? You just you couldn't even come up with like your own thing, like you're mimicking vagina, but you hate it. It's disgusting. And but you also claim this shit. And the only reason I know this is because I've heard women complain about it. Women complain that gay men use these terminologies based on vagina, but don't respect vagina. They say their butthole gets wet, which I mean, probably not. I mean, I'm not a biologist, but I don't think so. Why would you, why would you adopt these ideas about it if the
There's
thing,
some though. I think your butt has to get greased to push the poo out. I gotta think that there's some. I mean, I haven't researched it too much, but I gotta think there is some sort of lubricating mechanism. There's gotta be. I don't know that
I'll
it's
take one for the
necessarily.
team and I'll Google it.
Yeah, put that on your browser history. I
Yeah.
don't think. I don't know if. I don't know if it's necessarily connected to sexual arousal, but I gotta think there's some sort of biological mechanism that goes on. But
Hmm.
but again, that just reinforces my opinion that gay dudes are the manliest dudes because there's no degree of misogyny you could do as a heterosexual man and not be trumped. Like the way that men tend to hate women that love women isn't the way the hatred of women that I feel like gay dudes have towards women. So it is kind of like it is like in a way super duper masculine. Like, damn, I can't. Your stories are boring. I can't stand hearing you talk, and like all those misogyny tropes, like it's amplified to another degree. So I don't know. I just think it's okay for us all to be reviled by each other as long as we're polite and respectful and kind to one another. Like I wouldn't be offended at all if two gay dudes, were like, look, I don't want to watch you go down on your girl. That shit is gross. And if this movie is just about how good you go down on your girl, I don't care. I don't care to see it. Like
Right.
if that's the storyline about, how much this girl starts to enjoy her man eating her pussy. So, a big chunk of the movie are these really, you know, hyper visually intense scenes of cunnilingus. I would understand where two gay dudes would be like, I don't care how good the story is. I don't care about her self discovery and the redemption arc in here. I just don't
Right.
care. I totally respect that. I'm like, I get it, no problem.
I'd love to see them try to watch it though. I would love to see the footage from a hidden camera where they watch heterosexual displays of affection and see
Just
what their
gasps.
natural reaction is. And
This
then
guy, this
you wait like 3 weeks, and you get similar people from a different group or whatever, and then you show them footage of heterosexual people watching homosexual displays of affection and see if they complain about their cringes and looks of disgust. That's the problem. We don't get to turn the tables on each other often enough. Because I'd like to see both of those footage. I mean, I already know what the heteros are gonna look like, but I'd love to see the gay folks watching heterosex acts and be like, ugh, that's disgusting. And be like, see, we all feel the same way. Yeah. So this says that yes, the anus does not produce lubricant in the same way that a vagina does. It does not self lubricate, but it does have mucus glands that help the that help everything pass outward.
yeah.
So if you so if you're a gay guy and you think you're getting wet, it's because your body's trying to get rid of the penis that's in you.
Okay.
It's
It,
like
it's,
get
it
this
was just,
thing out of me.
it works the same way.
Yeah,
Mucus,
fuck it.
fluid, doesn't matter.
Who cares?
It's listen, it's getting the job done. So
Gosh.
dude can a dude can proclaim mightily about the wetness of his badussy, and I'll respect that.
I'm not gonna argue with you. I'm definitely not gonna be the guy that stands there and debates with you whether or not your anus gets wet. I'm not gonna do
Gotta
it. I
find
promise.
find the video.
No matter where I
I
am, if you could be screaming it to the top of your lungs about how wet, and I'm not gonna be like, actually, sir, I'm not. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do
what I would love to see a Hebrew Israelite arguing with a super flamboyant gay dude about the reality of his badussy's wetness and whether it's scientifical or biblical. I know that YouTube video's got to exist. I'm gonna
it. Yeah,
find it.
it's probably
I
out
want
there.
to see that
Yeah,
exchange.
yeah, it's probably out there because the Hebrew Israelites don't give a shit, bro. They'll argue with anybody about anything, pretty much.
Uh, Anything for an impressive amount of time.
Yeah, yeah,
It's one of those things because a lot of people they'll see the arguments not going anywhere and they'll bow out. One thing I will respect, not them. Those dudes stay true to it.
yeah,
Like, nope, this horse has been dead for 7 years, and we're still gonna kick the shit out of it. We don't care.
yeah. You can't. Yeah, you can't walk away. You can't be the one to disengage from Hebrew Israelite. If you engage with them, you're in it for the long haul. You got to go because you can't leave. If you leave, they're gonna start quoting Bible scriptures. They're gonna be like, "Oh, the wicked flee when no man pursueth."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
Like,
and then you got to stop. Be like, see, I ain't fleeing. I ain't running. Like, yeah, they gonna keep you there for a long time, bro. I've seen the Hebrew Israelites, and I know they probably wouldn't like that term, that overarching term, because they all got different camps. They call them like we ain't those guys. Those guys ain't cool. Like, so they got all these different brackets of Hebrew Israelites. But I've definitely seen one of them, one of the groups, arguing that once the kingdom of heaven is established on earth, like, so however that happens, it's going to be established on earth, Jesus come back, however, that one of the things that they were looking most forward to was raping white women, because that's what's going to be allowed and preferred, like not preferred, but it's definitely going to be allowed in the kingdom, is that the enemies that we've had, whatever happened to us is going to have to happen to them. So we're going to enslave them and we're going to rape their women. And I'm like, after God comes back and the kingdom is established on earth. That's what happens in that situation. Yep, we raping and enslaving. It's like, oh, okay.
Right.
Well,
Because fun.
all right. I guess. I mean, I guess if that's the world you're looking forward to, I mean, I'm not going to argue with you, buddy.
Well,
Hey,
look, and this is why I think too, because this is what I found in my, and it seems like too, because it's always so few people you can talk to about it, because most people don't look into this kind of shit, right? But I feel like if you study like the history of the books, that a lot of the books that were left out of the Bible that could have potentially been in there, the one of the common themes within them is um that there was some other forces involved, like the traditional canonical Bible narrative is it's just it's God and the devil and everybody is just chess pieces. But even in I think it's one of the epistles, I think it might be Peter or it might be Jude, I think rather, that quotes the book of Enoch, but the book of Enoch wasn't in there. And I remember when I first started studying shit, I was like, I didn't read that. I've read this whole fucking book. What do you mean Enoch? Enoch ain't here.
yeah.
And then you get a hold of the book of Enoch, and the book of Enoch is like, oh yeah, there was all of these motherfuckers around. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. So there was Samael and Raziel, and they were like, look, this is how you make swords. This is how you make makeup to trick dudes into fucking you. This is how you. This is like this. I'm gonna teach you all of the tricks of how you brainwash and guide humanity. What I think that the Greeks would have had. So let's always put the Greeks in there. When the Greeks talk about the transition of the Titans to the gods, there's these huge forces, these natural giant forces that can't be controlled, and all of a sudden, once they start being harnessed and tamed, now you start getting the god of agriculture, or the goddess
Yeah.
of agriculture, the god of warfare. As humans start to become more sophisticated in understanding how to utilize these forces around them, they're no longer victims of nature, but they have dominion over these natural forces. But there's always the story of like there's something else, and like you see that a lot in like the Gnostic text. Like I was going back through the uh the hypostasis of the archons. Again, they'll say, oh, it's the Gnostics, it was supposed to be thrown out. Pope whatever the fuck didn't approve it, so it's not in there. But I always thought it made way more sense when you read the Old Testament, because like what you said, hey, we're coming back to white. Like, listen, I know I haven't been around, but I promise I'm coming back. And when I get back, we are gonna rape these white women for justice. I promise you. You've suffered long enough, and if there's one thing I know about a perfect world, it's one in which we can rape white women. Like, it's you hear that and you're like, yeah, that kind of sounds more like a self-serving kind of narrative, but it is. It's like, well, it's an eye for an eye.
Yeah, I
Like that
wrote it.
is the
I wrote it.
right.
Whatever they do to you, we gonna do to them. I can't go back on my word. I mean, you
That
can't
that
just make them suffer on their own so we can see that. Like, no, no, they got to get that get back, bro. Get your
right.
pipes ready. It's gonna be some rape going on.
Listen, with your donkey genitals and horse-like emissions,
Yeah,
it's
it's
on.
coming. It's coming.
So, so, but whenever I would read the Old Testament too, it is like that theme is in there, and the church was the one that kind of decided that these were the same entities, and I don't know anybody that's really studied the Old Testament that hasn't come to the same like I think it was a heresy of Marcion. Like, nah, these are different entities. This is not the same shit.
Right.
Like whatever is saying Moses, I'm gonna kill your baby unless you show me the dick skin. You know what I'm saying? Whatever is saying like Adam, where are you? Like he doesn't like they don't know everything. Like there's some weird shit. Like let me see your dick before I answer your prayer. Oh yeah, I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna help you be a fishing killer so we can go take their shit. And so yeah, I don't see it as this like unique omnipotent God. I see it as just everybody had their own tribal factional god. Like everybody had their dude that was like, listen, I'm gonna organize you. We're gonna have some laws, we're gonna have some customs, and it's all for the purposes of look, go team. And when we fuck up the other team, we're gonna go into their temple They got their statue of their god. Let's knock that shit over. Let's show who's boss. But one tribe was like, look, I know how not to get fucked up. Look, we're just never gonna make a statue of our god. Now you can never knock our god over. Ha ha, we tricked
Nice.
you. But it's the same shit. We still gonna try to kill you and conquer. So when you read that shit, it's like one of those books where they kind of expand on a story, like it's in there but doesn't go into any detail. And like when you go into the very beginning, the word Elohim, the plural, let us make man in our image.
Right.
You know, I've come to the same conclusion before I got a hold of the Gnostic text that it's like this ain't the same shit. This ain't this sounds more like a group of motherfuckers that got some kind of knowledge that are trying to reproduce what God does, but aren't really God. It's not really God. And when I got a hold of that hypo stasis of the archons, I was like, this is the shit I've been looking for. Like I obviously, this is an idea that was already in circulation. Like, nah, there was some shit that was fallen. They had some knowledge of the greater upper dealings, the primeval consciousness or the supreme consciousness or whatever, but weren't totally from that. Call them fallen angels, call them entities, call them aliens, call them Yakub, whatever. But somebody knew some shit and had a greater understanding and put these things into motions. Because by the time Jesus gets here, he's like, look, all that eye for an eye shit, nah, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
He was the
the
regional
force,
manager. Like when the regional
right, right.
manager comes in, he's like, "Yeah, I know they've been telling you some bullshit, but it's like, it's like there was a council. There's a high god, and there's a whole bunch of other people. There's some Lokis in there, some mischievous assholes. They all part of the board members, and they all get to run things at one time or another. When God's out of his office, there's only one loudspeaker. Like there's only one PA system. So
Right.
when the manager's actually here, when the CEO's actually here, and he's giving out the rules and all that shit, it works fine. But then some days he's gone for a week or two, and he's like, "All right, y'all run it," and then they just take turns bugging out. And like, I don't know, just tell them if they cut their dick skins off, we'll allow them to be a part of our nation. And then after they cut their dick skins off, when they still healing, go outside and fuck them up while they all sore and bleeding. Just go outside and beat their ass. So those are clearly two different, something different from the other entity, or that entity itself has a dissociative identity disorder. So
Right.
that's
Right.
also a possibility. It
Well,
could just
this
be
is
a
this is
fractaled god.
but this is where I've because I'm completely away from any notion that I could declare or proclaim anything. Like I don't know shit. I just know we've all been left here. We all have access to some information, and we draw our conclusions, right? So I'm just saying, looking at the information, I can't draw some of the conclusions we're told that we're supposed to draw, by like mainstream official institutionalized experts on some of this shit. But I just feel like it's really curious to me, like out of all the shit, especially the shit that you say is official references, like you say Enoch is no good, but you kept a book that says I'm gonna quote Enoch like it is official.
Right.
But it's interesting to me that all of the shit that was systematically taken away is all the shit that would point you to the reality that there's other forces besides just God and the devil. Like that's just a very unique package. That's a very tight, clear-cut package. And so that kind of makes me think that there might be something more to it. Maybe something nefarious or maybe something that even speaks to the reality of there being some other forces at work. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because why else would you go to those same links? And why would that just be the coincidence that all the shit that you're saying is absolutely full of shit is the shit that's kind of fleshing out the narrative that all of this information did not come from God in the way that you are defining God. Like there's a lot of God posers, who were referred to as gods and worshipped as gods and taught human beings some shit. Because supposedly we got millions of years of not doing shit but fucking Neanderthals. I mean, fucking them good to the point we still got some of their DNA to this day. But it's like, okay,
Which had
So
to be
that's what
almost bestiality back then, right?
they had to be
Almost.
way where you were you created AIDS. You fucking first. It had to be is ape like. It had to be very ape like. So we're fucking Neanderthals. So there's other humans or human type creatures on the planet, but it just begs the question. It's like, okay, so why weren't they all Neanderthals? Why how did something else speciate in such a way that it was that drastically different? And why is it just millions of years of we got stones and then all of a sudden we're building factories of ceramics and we're making images of shit.
Right.
Like that just seems I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I think there could definitely be something to the idea that humans came into contact with something else that was just like, look, I'm gonna put you on. I'm gonna give there's a celestial blueprint. Like this is how you use consciousness to organize shit. We're gonna endow you with a little spark of the shit that we got, and we're gonna turn your little monkey DNA into to resemble us a little bit more. So you're gonna be able to do shit. Here's how you make the swords. Here's how you decorate the bitches. Here's how you feed the army. Here's how you plant the crops. So that you can mobilize your army. Look at them. They're just prancing around, eating fruit off the tree. They can't organize shit. They got some sticks and shit, but look, you motherfuckers are gonna have silos full of grain. You could run a 7-year campaign of just going around terrorizing the people around you. And look at this sharp ass shit I'm gonna show you how to make. Nobody else knows that. So it's just, you know,
Yeah.
it's hard for me to just see a natural evolution of um trial and error to just all of a sudden people have this much information this quickly and human beings are this sophisticated out of nowhere, and all of those sciences in every single culture are attributed to the gods, the Greeks, the Egyptians, all of these forces and natural phenomenon that people, harnessed, and once they applied it in a sophisticated way to define something that we attribute to civilization, like agriculture, like civics shit, and organizing human beings. All of a sudden, those concepts are attributed to gods. I don't know. I just don't think it's a coincidence. I'm not saying the ancient alien shit is 100% real. I'm just saying it's
Right.
intriguing to me.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
something's
saying.
going on. Something weird happened in there somewhere. They also said, here's a book to give to the other people that you encounter to make sure that they can't ever catch up with you. You listen to me, but you give them this book, and they'll be fucked for a couple hundred years. Trust me, you'll stay ahead of the game. And that's one thing. That's something that I liked about that movie, The Book of Eli. How important it was for the bad guy in the movie to get the Bible. He was
Right.
doing was looking for a copy of the Bible because he's like, yo, that shit is swagged out with the words, bro. Like, if I can get that book, bro, I'll run everything. The world's all fucked up. People are starving. There's cannibalism. They got diseases. But if I can get that book, he was working harder to get that than something that could have actually helped fix the world. He was like, nah, fuck all that. I just need a Bible. I'll stand up here on this balcony and I'll talk in a certain cadence and timbre. Next thing you know, everybody will be following me because that shit does have some. It's some crazy instructional document if you really think about it. Like some of the stuff that it insidiously promotes, and people just write it off. Like I always said, like if your father gave you a bunch of rules and then left the house, and then your mother came and gave you a few extra rules and then left the house, that wouldn't necessarily mean that the mother's rules negate the father's rules, especially if they don't talk about the same thing. Like if your father says, go to bed at 10 o'clock every night, no matter what, and then your mother says, don't eat no cookies before bedtime, they'd be like, well, mommy said don't eat no cookies before bedtime, so that means we can stay up all night. Like that's not what happened. So when they talk about how the New Testament wipes away all this other shit in the Old Testament, I'm like, most of that stuff didn't even get addressed. Nobody said, you know what, from now on, stop killing men who lay with men like they lay with women. Because I know before we said kill them, but you can stop that now. No, nobody. It never got addressed again. So to assume that rule is gone. I don't know how I don't know the mathematics that went into creating that equation like that. And in fact, even more so, Jesus is quoted as saying, "I didn't come to change the Old Testament. I didn't come to change not one pen stroke of that shit." So if he said that, coupled with the fact that there's a bunch of shit that he didn't mention, how does it get removed and done away with? Because it's really just the mental part of people not wanting to accept the fullness of this idea of this is what God wants from you. If you catch him picking up sticks on my day, kill that motherfucker. Hit him in the head with rocks until he's dead. And
Like in
like, you
front
know
of his
what?
family.
I'm just gonna
And
put that part away. I don't think we want to do that anymore. But Jesus, he didn't say, "Yo, stop killing people for working on the Sabbath." He didn't explicitly state that. We
he
would
didn't
never.
explicit he didn't explicitly state it, but he did it. You know what I mean? Like he under, and that's why I'm saying it's like there's I think the reason why all of that stuff has to stick, because again it's humanity's credit report. It's a reflection. There's value in it whether it's true or not, right? But there was definitely some things where they were in complete irreconcilable contradiction, because technically it said don't do any work on the Sabbath.
Right.
None. You still healed somebody. Technically, we're supposed to be able to kill you. In fact, we're trying to use this law to kill you. Like, this is the whole argument. Like, you are supposed to die now. You healed somebody on the Sabbath. You could have waited till tomorrow. Like, why do you have to do it today? Like, so, and he makes the point, like, you can't use the rules. And this is the problem with any time you codify something. Once you have it codified, that rule or law can be exploited so you get an evil outcome,
Yeah.
but you're adhering to the letter of the law. You can miss the spirit of it, the point of it. So there is some shit where he just outright contradicted it. You've heard in the past an eye for an eye, but I tell you, bless those that curse you. So this is irreconcilable. Like, nah, you said it's eye for an eye. Like you're totally undermining it. Like, and even when you quote stuff like, and again, and I guess because people don't understand like a lot of these dogmatic ideas that they're given, and how the Bible's taught, they were the decisions of people. It
Right.
was just people decided at some point this is how we're, and I'm sure there was a reason for it. You know, you don't want to confuse people. You want to try to help that. I'm not even saying it was necessarily anything nefarious, but they just tell you that they repeat it, but if you actually read it, it doesn't technically say that, but they'll just tell you, oh yeah, it's the same thing, he fulfilled it, it's the same thing, Old Testament, New Testament, it's exactly the same shit, don't worry about it, don't ask no questions, it's the same God, and all of it is from God. Every single word you read is directly from God. But then it's like Jesus says, nah, Moses wrote you that commandment. He doesn't say God wrote the commandment through Moses. He's like, nah, Moses wrote that shit. He literally sees like, this was Moses's idea because you
Right.
motherfuckers wouldn't listen. You guys weren't ready for shit. So he tells you in there, like, yeah, there's some creative licensing. You know, there's some
Took
there's some
some
practical
liberties.
shit.
I took
Yeah,
some
there's some
liberties.
liberty. There's some practical decisions. Like, look, we're conquering new villages. We're raping new bitches. Are you really gonna tell them they can't get new hoes? You really
Right.
gonna tell them that if they're sick of what? I mean, how we can't manage people this way. These are Neanderthals.
I can't.
Just
What do you expect from me? Yo,
right,
if Jesus can turn water into wine to keep a wedding party going, y'all could keep these bitches.
right.
Y'all, I mean, who's? I mean, come on. We just chopped all the men's heads off, and all the women who already had sex with men. We killed them too. The least we can do is keep the virgins for ourselves. I mean, come on, buddy. We got to have some
Yeah.
perks to this job. If not, what are we even here for? What are we even doing? We're just killing people.
And that's all I'm saying is that there's more to it. There's definitely some glimpses into some ethereal shit and some shit beyond the scope of our understanding. And there's a lot of shit that's just, this is what we are. This is how the game works. This is how humans organize. this is how all of this shit functions. It is what it is. But technically too, like, there's nothing. Like, that's another thing. It's like, no, it's all directly from God. And the book itself tells you there was only one thing that was directly from God, and that was the original tablets, and them shits got smashed. It
Right.
never says, if it says originally. And I think the whole allegory of that shit is, all of this shit is out there in the ether, just like the Tao, right? The moment you try to crystallize it, it's no longer that. Like, you're missing something.
Yeah.
You're doing it because you're helping make this information that you've got inwardly available to other people. But it's the moment you codify it and you write it down, it loses something in there. So
Yeah.
the idea that he brought down commandments written with the finger of God, and they all got smashed. And then it says when he went back up, when Moses went back up, it says he rewrote it. Didn't say God wrote it again with his finger. It says the original was with the finger of God. And then when he went back up the mountain, he wrote it his damn self.
So we don't
And
know
it's
what, how close. That's the telephone game at that point. That is the most extreme iteration of the telephone game, because even if you pass something between 500 humans and it gets fucked up, that's not like passing something from God to a human and then he drops it, it breaks it, has to rewrite it himself. That's like, oh
right.
shit, yeah, we're fucked. We're fucked.
Yeah.
Let's
And
just
then
start with "Thou shalt not kill." How about that? That's an easy one.
and then if you get even more scholarly into it, until Cyrus freed the Jews to go back and rebuild their nation, nothing was written down. Nothing was written down.
Right. It was
Like,
freestyling.
right, it's like, oh yeah, they've been writing this shit. It was, Moses wrote it down. No, nobody wrote. There's like, slaves had books. These were people that were just pillaged and captured, and but they got to keep all their scrolls. They got to keep all their books. They had a no. There might have been some that survived, and that's why you have older. But the reality is, the oldest ones that exist now are all after that date. So most people that study this shit are like, yeah, this shit probably got written around like 400 BC, when they needed to regroup themselves and actually start committing this shit down, because like just about every culture at that point, everything was oral tradition. Everything was oral tradition. So yeah, this was all shit that was committed to memory, and stories were told. And and again, doesn't necessarily mean there's not some kind of divine truth in there, but the notion that it's just a perfect package is just, I don't know, man. It seems a little silly to me.
Yeah.
It seems silly.
I think one of the main things that I got from that, listening to the Tao and reading through it, and especially that part, like you said, about as soon as you try to capture it or codify it, or it's the way that can't be weighed. As soon as you draw a map, you're lost. Like, it's something that you can realize and understand. It's something that you can enact in the world, but to try to impart that to other people is where it breaks down. And that makes a lot of sense, because it, as important of an idea that teaching is, we do know that it's more about the person than the teacher. The best teachers are the ones that we identify who have got their skills to a place where they can adapt to different types of students and teach them in a way that they'll learn better. Not the teachers that have one thing, and if you don't get it, then fuck you. So that adaptability shows you that it's really about the person who's learning. And one of the best ways to teach people is by example. So this is not something that you should be going around touting as, oh, I know this, so I'm better than you, or I'm the one that's going to teach it to you. The best thing you can do is be the example and let people catch that vibe and imitate that example until they start to pull those lessons out of the ether for themselves. But trying to put it on paper and put it in the mystery school and shit like that is, I get it. I understand why you do it, because you're trying to propagate this idea. You're trying to push it around,
Yeah.
push so and multiply it so it does improve the world. But the first thing you did was put it behind a wall and created circumstances and attributes that you had to have access this information. And like I said, I get it, because me myself, I'm not going to go out and try to teach people the shit that I think I know and all of that. And even if I did decide to share or engage with people, it would be a specific type of person. Like, I'm not gonna go to a fucking corner in Philly and try to talk to some drug dealers about meditation. That's not what I'm here for. I'm not doing that shit. So the idea of the mystery school, it makes sense, but you have to understand it. This is information that you want to multiply, and the first thing you do is build a wall around it. That's always going to create a lot more friction than it needs to. And you could almost say most of that shit that they were trying to teach there, it's not lost as a concept because these principles just exist, but the pathway to those principles through the mystery schools is lost. Like, if even now, if some doctor is a surgeon, right, he becomes a surgeon and he saves thousands of lives. At the end of his life, people are probably still going to talk about whatever university he graduated from. Like, so the pathway to his skill set exist. He did this, he did that, he got from here, he got these papers from this place. That mystery school shit, none of it leads back. I mean, we could guess, but none of it really leads back to those people, those teachers. Nobody knows what the fuck was going on in there. We got a bunch of people that started secret societies and shit, and they wearing funny clothes and they got symbols on their hats. And there's thousands of people making YouTube videos about who they really are and what they really worship. But that shit, that the path to that real information is not connected to any of those institutions at all. Anybody who wants to figure it out can figure it out. I always love that about people to this day. But I remember first hearing it maybe mid 90s. People start talking about Illuminati, and I started hearing more about Masons and up into the 2000s. Then once the internet really popped off, it was a wrap. All of that shit was everywhere. But none of those people, none of those people I know anyway, ever realized that they were saying that these are secret societies. Secret societies that we all know about and we all talk about. But they still call them secret societies. Yo, there's 33rd degrees of masonry and you gotta worship a goat and they do that, like, but it's a secret society. We know what their symbol is. We know where their lodges are. We know they wear the fat. Like, what about it is secret? None of that shit ever stayed secret. The Illuminati is the secret society. The Bilderbergers, they're the secret society. All this bullshit that Alex Jones has been yelling about for 30 years almost. He's got a stack of papers on his desk that tell you about who the Geneva Convention is actually reptiles and fucking satanic cyborgs and shit. But it's all secrets. It's all secrets. I like the satanic cyborgs though. I can't front because I've never seen anybody attach religion to robots. That's awesome. That is awesome. Satanic cyborgs, bro. And you know what they're gonna do. You know what they're gonna do. They're not gonna crush your head. They're not gonna chase you and kill you, put you in a. Oh no, nope. They're gonna rape you with their metal penises.
It's penetration.
We've already established that. We established that you were gonna be raped with a metal penis 5 years before he said the words satanic cyborg. So he already knew that the metal penises were coming from somewhere, and then it just took him a while to develop the full vision. Oh, it's the satanic cyborgs that are fucking us. That guy has been alive for so long, telling all the secrets of the scariest and worst people on the planet. All the aliens, him and David Icke and all these. They know if they kill me, then it's all given away. Then the veil is right. Okay. Either what you're saying, what he says about people, I'll give him that. When Alex Jones is talking about people and the shit that they're involved in and stuff like that, a lot of that turns out to be extremely true. I haven't seen any evidence of reptiles or satanic cyborgs quite yet, but you know, the simulation seems to be amping up. It's doubling and tripling itself exponentially in these past few years. So who knows, bro? At this point, I wouldn't be surprised by anything. Honestly, if Joe Biden peeled the skin off his head on TV and it was like a boa constrictor under it, I would just be like a just a total humanoid boa constrictor. I'd be like, well, that would be my full reaction. I guess. I mean, shit. Nothing would surprise me at this point. Nothing.
Yeah, I'm there, man. I'm there. That reminded me of that Rick and Morty scene where they shoot the snake into space? and they show the long drawn out scene of all the snakes organizing everything, and they're just hissing, and there's no words. Oh,
Yeah,
that shit is
yeah. I
brilliant.
wouldn't even. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised at all. And I wouldn't. Above all else, I wouldn't be convinced that it's not the best path we have to fixing the planet. Whatever that conclusion is that we come to. If I tripped and talked to a tree and the tree said the only way the planet survives is if 7/8 of all humans are gone, I'd be like, yo, I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, I mean, it makes that math makes sense to me at this stage of humanity. We're
Yeah,
infants.
yeah, it's hard. It's hard to not, and that's the fucked up thing too, because a lot of times I'll be listening to Alex Jones talk about some shit, and I'll just, because you're right. In the age that we were socialized, like that was the fight. Hip hop can build its own secret society.
Right.
Like, of course, the Illuminati are evil. Of course, these societies that want to control us are evil. That's the real fight. So, you got to be conscious. You got to be aware. You got to be on the lookout for that shit. You got to read more books than anybody else you know. That way, you know the shit that nobody else know. Now you got the knowledge, and then you're like, well, I'm hearing this talk about, you know, who produces, who moves humanity forward, who the smart people are, who all the, and it's like, I kind of, you know, I hate to say that I kind of see their point, like what else, how else are you going to manage humanity? And, how else are you going to feed all these people? Like, this is maybe, this is a bad idea in the direction that you're going. Almost to where you kind of like this shit that you've been taught all your life to think is the most evil shit in the world. You kind of do the math problem in your head yourself, and you're like, I'm not saying I want to wipe people off of the planet. I'm not saying that a lot of people are just taking up space and are basically just useless feeders, and only people that are enlightened should be on the planet. But I could definitely kind of understand why people that are making decisions to make the world that it is would kind of feel that way. And I would kind of think too, it's like these people only exist because humans do such a bad job at managing themselves. And if human beings didn't need to be managed, there would be more evidence of that in the way that we treated each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the whole idea is like it's the powers are a problem. If you remove, even like that, I think it was Police State by Dead Prez, where they have that dude from the African People's Socialist Party, I think. I forget his name. But he's like preaching at the end. It's like, the police, you need the police. Because if there was no police, you'd be killing each other. That's a lie, and da 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 da. And it's like, in a very idealistic way, I'm like, yeah, the people that rule over us, they are evil. I agree with you there. That's true. And I'd really like to believe that idyllic notion that if you just took those fetters off of all of us, we could prove that we don't need to be ruled over that way, because we could manage interacting with each other righteously and doing right by each other. But then you're confronted with the reality every day that most humans aren't on that shit.
Right.
And then I gotta look at that shit from him and just be like, you know what? I understand the ideal notion that you're putting out there, but I have too much information at my disposal that just is gonna lead me away from concluding what you're concluding. Like, humans aren't ready for the fetters to be taken off. They're just not. So like, if the alternative is you got to be ruled by these evil motherfuckers, like, again, I don't want to, be pro Illuminati, and whatever nebulous identity that term can evoke, right? But just the idea that those people are evil, and the fact that they would want to rule over us and control us and da da da. If you look around, humans by and large kind of justify the need for that, unfortunately.
Yeah. It sucks, but it's true because The things that people would that we claim that people would do if they weren't under this type of sadistic regime. Not saying that it's not, but the things that they would do, I would say there's probably 70-80% of that of those actions and activities are available to us right now, and we still not doing it. Not on a large scale. I think that the people who want to be communists could totally get together and pool their resources and buy 40 acres and use whatever skills that they have, because they always say, there's a carpenter who will help the brick mason because they're socialism or whatever they're gonna, however they break it down. But why couldn't you organize that now and show how these things could be done, and everybody could feel satisfied and fulfilled by how they traded their skills and their time and their labor and what rewards they got in return, and their quality of life. The only people who are doing that shit are the Amish, and we talk about them like they're fucking crazy. But that's the model. Like, what would you do? You think without the infrastructure, without the government, without the police, you think there would still be buildings that have 155 floors? Like, what the fuck would you ever
Yeah.
build something like that for? Under a different type of social organization. Why would you ever? Why would Hollywood Boulevard exist? There,
Yeah. The
there would be no strip in the world that you could drive. Maybe a few for fun, but there wouldn't be these big ass cities with a guitar center and a fucking a bunch of burger joints and a vegan food place over there. That shit doesn't exist in the world that you're talking about. At least not for a few hundred years. If you tore everything down and tried to rebuild it, it wouldn't exist for a very long time. And you probably
not in
wouldn't
your
care
life.
enough about it to exactly, not in your lifetime. You probably couldn't maintain the attraction to it for long enough to rebuild it. Nobody would care anymore. It would go back to real tribal living. You be the old lady or the old man in a tent for the crazy folk talking about how there used to be Starbucks where you could get this really sweet drink and it would keep you up all day. And they'd be like,
That
"Okay,
would
great
be
grandpa."
yeah.
Okay, great grandpa. We get, yeah, Starbucks, funny, ha ha. But nobody would care about that shit no more. And that's what it is. People don't want to give up these amenities and these comforts that they have because they're intrinsically connected to the system that you claim you hate. You're using some of the best technology on the planet to complain on YouTube about the government.
Right.
What access do you have to that technology without this oppression and this? Because I don't know. Like I said, not with people in their current configuration. You have to explain to me how you find a new group of people to write down something different. Like, well, now we'll take away the lobbyists so they can't, bribe each other, and we'll take this out because it doesn't incentivize greediness, or however you're gonna do it. I'd love to hear it. How you gonna write that shit down? And then you're going to find the people who will implement exactly what you wrote and not find new ways to exploit and create new loopholes. They're just going to be like, nope, this is it right here. All right, let's do it. And then that carries on and seamlessly or fairly see. I don't want to say it's going to be perfect because you don't want to hold them to too high of a standard, but roughly, kind of seamlessly connect itself, integrate itself, and they're just going to pass the baton to this new world, and then everybody's just better. I just don't see it because I think the same thing exists, that the propensity exists in all humans. That's why it's so difficult to make this shit change, is because even when you do have somebody with the right heart alignment, whether they're enticed by the power, the money, the explicit sex, the 3-piece suit gay orgies, any of that, or they just see how filthy it all is and become jaded and defeated and say, all right, I can't do this job, or fuck it, I'll take the money. However, there's 100 ways to get to that place, but that's the point. It's 100 ways to get to that place, and so far I haven't seen anybody who's made it through that system and been like, see, I told you I had changed things 20 years ago. I told you we would make it all better. It feels like it's just people in the washing machine or in the dryer. You're just getting flopped around. The things are changing. They're changing their configuration a little bit, but it's still the same load of clothes, and they're just spinning in the same revolutions. Yes, the pink shirt was in front, now it's in back, and the jeans are in the front now, but it's the same shit. It's the same shit. It's not changing very much, and it definitely doesn't seem to be improving for any particular group of people other than the people who already had the momentum behind them to keep it going. I don't see too many people fumbling $100 billion fortunes that their families had for two generations. Like I don't see that getting fumbled too often. There's a lot of people getting rich now with the internet and drop shipping or however they're doing the whole influencer shit. People are making a lot of money with the internet and pulling themselves out of what would have been maybe mid, lower class, whatever, into a different tax bracket. But for the most part, it just seems like the temperature has just been the same or worse since I was growing up. And I would say I really wasn't paying attention to shit on a large scale when I was young. I wasn't politically involved. I didn't know nothing about it. I just had that fucking inner city fuck everything idea. And you grow up, you learn some shit, and then a black president happens, and then you're forced to like pay attention. Now I really got to pay attention. And the only conclusion I've come to is it's all bullshit.
Yeah.
I don't believe I don't believe anybody who I see on TV with a suit on, and it's not about the suit, it's not about their skin color, it's about the profession itself. I don't believe nobody who is in the field of politics presenting them like when I just look at them talking, I don't believe anything any of them are saying, whether it's something I agree with or disagree. I don't believe you. I have no reason to think that you're in. This is a job that can make you a lot of money. You can keep this job for a really long time, and most people are going to do whatever they got to do to stay in that position, no matter what. If some of that shit happens to trickle down and be a benefit to you and your particular alignment, that's dope. But I don't think he did that for you. I think it happened to align with whatever he needed at the time or she needed at the time, and they're getting busy. They're doing what they do. The cops, the managers at Target, it's all the same shit. It's all the same shit because the common denominator in this is just humans in their current configuration. I don't see a path around that. I don't see no way we address that on a large scale because that would be fascism, right? There's nothing you could do to box people in. Even if you're saying, I want to box you in to meditation and compassion, it's the same shit. It's the same. It's still, you're gonna have to do it with an iron fist. If you're not compassionate, I'm gonna fucking chop your head off. That is there any other way to do it?
But just look at that. We're gonna outlaw guns in Japan,
Right.
and
Somebody's gonna blunderbuss your ass while you fucking while you standing outside. They're gonna do whatever they gotta do to break it down and get done. And he wasn't. This guy was like a former political. He's not even still the man, right?
oh yeah, no, 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 no. He's since retired. Yeah, he was giving a speech for promoting another candidate.
Right. And somebody mollywopped his ass with an Elmer Fudd shotgun, homemade with duct tape on it and fucking a wood
Er,
plank. Shit had a wooden plank and some duct tape, and he killed your ass with it. Like I don't know, that dude might have faked his death, bro. He might have faked his death. There's no way you built a fucking musket with duct tape and wood, and you killed a guy from 15 feet away. I can't accept it. I'm sorry, I can't accept it. It stinks. It stinks. When you look at that gun and the distance, the can, like, dude, the barrel that it was like big ass soup cans. Like, how did he even point that thing?
I don't know enough about it. I wouldn't even know. I'm not mechanically inclined, so I wouldn't even know where to begin to figure out how that thing works or the mechanics behind it that would have, I'm not even sure what the ammunition was, but apparently he caught it in the neck and the chest, and he was bleeding out pretty bad. But
Um,
when I saw the video, it looks like he just fell. Like I didn't see any blood splatter or anything. So maybe
yeah.
he did fake it. I don't know. If he came back in a week and took off his mask and instead of a lizard, he was like a cute little dog, a little dog face underneath. Again, I just like, well, I
Hey.
I, I would be equally not as surprised. But I think um in what you were saying, the hallmark of demonstrating that you're enlightened is showing how you would behave without any fetters. I think
Right.
that's what that is. So when people talk about, oh yeah, we're going to take over the government and then we'll have our communist utopia or whatever, our religious, theocracy, utopia, whatever. It you see all this talk, but like you said, the Amish are the only ones that are actually doing it. The Amish are really one of the few communities that could say, yeah, all of this shit could fall apart. Y'all could keep going with your fuckery and blow each other off the face of the earth, and we'll be fine. So when the lizard people die off and there's no longer this nefarious cabal ruling over humanity and extracting their energy and allegedly raping and eating their babies, we'll be fine. And for all of the talk that people do, like, we have that opportunity. Like, that's what your family is. Your family is the opportunity to be like, okay, what does governance look like? Like,
Right.
there's no external forces. It's just you and your wife. How do rules, how does cooperate, like, is it, and do you rule with an iron fist, like, bitch, do what I say, I'm gonna beat you? Or do you rule like, is there compassion and cooperation and understanding? You know what I mean? Like, that's the first degree to which you demonstrate, like, if all of these evil reptile people that rule over us, if you took them out of the equation, for all of your rhetoric, what does it actually look like when you take that away? And that's what your home is. Your home is where you get to show and prove what your governance looks like. And from there it extends to your community. Like, that's all it is. That's all this cult shit is it's everybody now is caught up in the uselessness of arguing about what forces need to animate the machine. And at the end of the day, all the evidence points to the fact that the drives behind the machine itself and the machinery itself is the great evil.
Right.
Because as soon as you sit in the machine, it's the fucking one ring. And you'll be like, damn, I could fuck all these kids. I could get all this pussy. I could eat all these baby seals. Nothing can stop me. I could blow up a third of the country with this button. Holy shit. And so it's that Babylonian model. That's why I say when you're saying satanic cyborgs, cyborgs are inherently satanic because it's and I'm gonna explain to you why. Because, like, and again, I'm gonna go back to the hypostasis of the archons or whatever. Um, the notion that these creatures were like, I'm gonna try to do what God does. What does God do? I'm gonna create. I'm going to create something in my image. I'm going to do it. I'm going to give it my thoughts. I'm going to engineer it. I'm going to program it. All of this shit is just us being God. That's the driving force behind all of this Babylonian shit. Is we see everything, we know everything through this magic of electricity. Some might call it lightning or light or enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. We're able to basically, with um images of light, propaganda on TV, zeros and ones in computers to distribute information, observe through cameras, the all-seeing eye in the sky, all of this shit. Human beings have been able to collectively, through the system, through these same ancient tribal organizing mechanisms, have been able to come up with some shit that technologically is undeniably impressive. When have human beings ever been this integrated, interconnected, with this much information, this much access to, like you said, all the amenities? Like, yeah, all that shit comes through the practice of human beings being those archons. Like, I'm gonna create life or a version of life. We're running out of meat. Fuck it. I'm just gonna clone some sheep. I'm gonna make meat out of cells in a petri dish. I'll just do it. Like, there's nothing you could put in. I'll just do it. I'll just create it. I'll figure it out. And so, yeah, cyborgs are human beings basically saying, yeah, I can, to a certain degree, I can create life. I can create, I can create conscious. That's why our dicks are so hard for AI. Like, we just can't wait till we get that shit up and running, because it will almost be like we made a person, and not just made a person, like, because I'm sure we've cloned people. I don't give a fuck. You can't tell me we cloned sheep and we cloned cows, and these same fucking Nazi scientists aren't like, fuck it, let's make some humans. I don't believe you. I'm sure we've tried the shit, and I'm sure we've probably done it. But that's just the organic material. The God shit is the divine spark. Yo, consciousness.
Right.
can we recreate consciousness? And we're like, fuck yeah, we can. And then once you let that shit unleashed upon the world, there's no putting the genie back in the bottle. And if you don't do it, someone else who figures it out is going to do it. So then, like, the person who's like, fuck, I don't want to unleash this horrific shit on mankind, but if I don't do it, so just like with the whole nuclear bomb shit, like, fuck, we got to make this shit before Hitler does. But this is gonna create misery. Yeah, but we got to be the creators of misery. It's got to be us. So this ancient biblical tribal organizing mechanism, uh, it's effective. You know. So again, like I always put it, or I don't always, but like this is the thing that I've been kind of making sense of in my head. Like that's the only real polarity. Like the only real polarity is Babylon and the Garden of Eden. Human beings in a natural state, or human beings in this march towards a technocracy. Like, nah, we're gonna organize the whole fucking planet and fucking have and like when people talk about this nefarious machine or the reptilians or the Illuminati or whatever that shit, like that's what you're talking about. And it's not even necessarily that those people are so evil and nefarious. The Pandora's box was open, the ball was rolling. Humans aren't going to stop humaning. And as they continue to do it, they're going to keep figuring shit out. Like you say, they leave these legacies behind, these institutions that preserve information, and it's going to keep going on and on and on. And it's a runaway train that you can't stop. Nobody can just turn it off. It's just new people are going to fill the seat. And I think the Enlightenment is understanding like that model or paradigm of ruling over people, it it's destined to end in the most horrific human behaviors that humans are capable of. Like that's what that leads to. We've got the amenities, but we're spiritually unfulfilled. We don't get along. We don't have meaning. And the people that keep the machine running, like they feel entitled to, well, I deserve this power. I deserve this extra. I deserve, to think like we got to wipe off 7/8 of the people. Like they're not making the shit happen. I'm making the shit happen. Like I'm God on earth. They're not,
Right.
you know? So, but if you're like the Amish and you're like, look, the goal isn't to have power, and just to invoke Jesus again a little bit, it's like, look, you see how the fucking Goyim rule over you. Like that's their model. And he says it like it wasn't the Jews. Like, nah, the Jews did that shit too. Like it's the same story. No, no, no. Our God's coming back to kill you, and then we're gonna fuck your bitches. Like that's everybody's story. Nobody's story is like we're just gonna stop killing. We're gonna stop killing and raping. That option was never discussed on the table. Like that's just the tribal format. But he's like, look, everybody has to be. If you want to be great, be the servant to the next person. Serve humanity. Don't try to conquer humans and make humans become your servants. Like that's the Babylonian spirit or drive. That's how that shit works. Hierarchy, people in charge, and people through all kinds of different forces. Coercion, violence. You're not going to be able to eat. You're not going to be able to hold a job. Think what we tell you to think. Do what we tell you. Like that's that shit. But the Amish are like, we're just not going to do that. Like, we're going to serve each other. We're going to work together. We're going to cut these trees together. We're going to build these tiny little farms, and we're going to govern ourselves. And like the path to enlightenment outside of that, like you're not going to topple the machine. You're not going to take over the machinery and make the machine go in the right way. The only thing that you can really do in search of enlightenment is that cult shit, which is, whether it's in the context of your family or your community, it springs out from yourself and then the people around you, where you make that decision to say, okay, I understand that I'm totally ruled over, and these fetters exist and the people in charge probably are evil, but what do I have control over my actions within this sphere of influence that I do have? What can I do positive? And that's really what it is. It's not toppling the system. It's humanity recognizing and organizing themselves in a way not to overthrow the system, but to get along with each other and be righteous to one another so that there's no need for the system.
Right.
That's how the system falls apart. There's no need. But like I said, we haven't demonstrated that if you take those fetters off, there's no need for the system. Except with the Amish are doing a pretty good job.
Right. And we make fun of them. We
Right,
make
right.
fun of them as a culture. We laugh at them. Look how stupid they are, building their own barns and riding horses instead of cars. Them horses is looking pretty good right now, right, because of the gas prices. But up until that, we made fun of them. That tells you right there that if that's not the temperature of society as a whole, when you're claiming to want to overthrow the government, you're claiming to not need them, abolish the police, all this other shit. But if you look at the Amish, their whole way of life is repulsive, and that's the model that you're going to need to embrace if you expect to live outside of this paradigm. It's is anybody bothering the Amish as far as we know? Like I don't. Are they getting raided and swatted? Like are people trying to liberate the women, or is anybody bothering them?
Not that I'm aware of.
Right. So a lot of the narrative, even with people who accept that's a possibility, namely the black conscious community and people like Black Hammer and all of that, a lot of their talk was about how the system would never allow you to do that. I say, oh, well, do we not bother the Amish just because they're white and we allow whites to do it, even though that would be showing you the entire model of how to sidestep all of this shit. Why would they allow them to do it and not give them no trouble? So if a bunch of black folks do, that's the idea. If brown people do it, it wouldn't be that easy. But I'd like to see people try it, especially now that we could live stream everything and all of the information of how to start your own cult slash religion. It's all out there. There's a legal way to do every bit of it, and I guess that would be the compromise. Is that you still use those elements of the machine itself to quote unquote liberate yourself from it. But if they have that available to you, if you can just go print out a 50 whatever C whatever form, write everything down, pay your filing costs and everything else, and just see what happens. See if they grant it to you, because there's a lot of people out here using that same structure as a shell to buy themselves Bentleys and Louis Vuitton clothing. So if you could use that same document, and all you want to do is grow food and do and whatever else is on your list of how to exist outside this paradigm, why not just put that shit into action and let them prove openly in front of everybody that they won't let you do it. They won't let you escape the system, because it looks like there's a group of people already in this country who've done it successfully. Not to mention how many other groups there are that we don't know about because they're flying under the radar. They're not actually getting everybody pregnant, prima nocta, getting little girls They're not doing none of the shit that gets you fucking, David Koresh. They're not doing none of that. They're just existing out here on their pieces of land and minding their business.
And it's not just the Amish. I think the Mennonites do that shit too.
Right. Yeah. It would
There's
be hard to tell them apart, honestly.
fair, fair. But even the idea that black people couldn't do it. The Nuwabians did do it before the allegation it fucking came to be.
Right, there it is.
They weren't quiet about it. They weren't subtle. They're like, nah, let's build fucking Egyptian Disneyland right in the middle of fucking Georgia. And Georgia is only slightly more sophisticated than like Mississippi and Louisiana. There's a belt of like historic, like you just know these are racist states, you know, like Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, Georgia, Panhandle in Florida. But once you start going south in Florida, it's changed a little bit. But that whole little strip of land, like you're doing this shit in like Georgia, like Georgia cops are fucking notorious. You know what I mean? Like, and that shit was up. Like the shit only got taken down because kids were getting touched, allegedly. And
Right,
a lot of people dispute whether that was the case or not. But I don't know, if you're gonna lie to me about being 50 trillion years old, I got a feeling you wouldn't tell me the truth.
right, about whether you were touching kids or not. Yeah, I
Right.
don't know. But and with the Amish, see, that's another thing is that with those groups like that, there's people on both sides. There's a bunch of people who are going to tell you that it's all a lie and he never did anything. And then there's people who are going to be like, oh yeah, he has 72 kids off the ranch and my mother was raped by him, and like they're going to tell you the opposite story. So whether they paid them or like that, none of that matters. That's just not happening on Amish land. There's no Amish women coming out with black eyes like, yo, they beating me, I need to get out of here. I've never seen it. As far
Right.
as I know, they have a pilgrimage that you can go on where you get as much of the world as you want. And then you either stay gone or you come back when you're done. I think you get like, I don't know how long it is because I've seen a bunch of different shit. But say it could be 6 months or a year. Like, yeah, go ahead, go smoke cigarettes, drink alcohol, you can bang, do whatever you want. We're not going to talk about it. Either you come back or you stay gone. Just having that installed right there sounds kind of dope. It seems like if you don't want to be here, all you got to do is like wait till your 18th birthday or something and just go on your outing and see how the rest of the world treats you. You know, the first time somebody grabs your ass at a bar, you either gonna take a left or you're gonna take a right. Like, yo, this shit ain't for me. I'm going back to the compound, or where's the hotel? Who knows? Either way, the Amish ain't got no issues. They doing whatever they doing over there. Nobody's bothering them. They chilling. I say, I say, y'all, we need to learn more about the Amish and the Mennonites, bro. You need to figure it out. What paperwork did they file? What are they doing? I need to know how to build a barn.
Yeah, so that's the next move is Amish consulting fees.
Mm,
It's like, look, yeah, because they still need capital because they sell their cabins, they sell, their wagons, or they make shit that they sell.
yeah.
They even though they're kind of off the grid and doing their own little thing, they still find a way to trade with Babylon. They're like, look, I know you guys are a giant beast, you need some shit. Here's some jams and jelly. And I can't front. I've some one of my wife's friends brought me some jelly from the Amish. It was some shit up in one of them New Englander states, and it was exquisite. It was delightful. It was the best preserves I've ever had in my life. So they're finding a way to be useful and sell shit, but you know that might be the next step is translating all these stocks and crypto money into like, look, can we pay you 10 grand for some consulting fees, or can you walk me through how to build the cottage? How do
Yeah.
you raise the barn? How did you dig the well? These seems like things that are just going to be because everybody that we have in the sphere now, I mean, and there's so many talking heads now. Like YouTube, I mean, we're becoming talking heads now. I don't take us out of that equation like we're any different. But everybody is on YouTube telling you what to be angry about, telling you all the things, and it's like, yeah, I know. You know what I mean? And it's just to what degree? Hey guys, things are bad, bad things are happening. Okay, I know. Hey, it's a new day. Here's the new shit that's bad. Can you believe how bad this is? Look, Joe Biden did the Anchorman shit and read the whole fucking prompter like an idiot. Yeah, shit's pretty bad. All right,
Right.
now what?
Yeah.
Nobody got the now what. So there's all this ability to communicate and influence and reach people, but none of these people that have all these followers are saying, okay, now here's what we need to do to actually transition and take care of one another and survive outside of this shit. So for all the talk about criticizing Babylon, nobody's trying to make the exodus. Everybody loves this shit.
Yep.
Like you said, you can be like, look, I know you're raping and eating the babies. I know you're systematically oppressing and murdering people. I know you're racist and horrible, and I know all our goods and services are made from the backs of slavery from hundreds of years ago and current slavery. That's how we have a nice existence. And I will drink every drop of that misery in a tasty Starbucks glass because I'm not going to live without pumpkin spice latte. I won't do it. I don't want to live in a world where I can't pay $3 for some pumpkin spice latte with organic nutmeg. Fuck you. I don't care. So, for all the talk about how corrupt and evil it is, very few people are wielding that influence to practically transition human beings into something different and better. And I don't think a lot of people even want to come to terms with the fact is like, look, we got to give up a lot of these goodies and trinkets. Like this is the future Larry Mandel warned us about. We're just getting collector edition meat trinkets
Mm,
and don't leave.
it's good enough. It's still good enough because the ACs is still running. It hasn't got quite bad enough for people to realize it. So you're gonna have to. People are gonna have to wake up with a belly full of their neighbor before they realize that shit may have gone a little off the rails. Because I think a lot too many, way too many people are willing to let it get worse. Because there's still not enough of us, I guess, on the bottom side of it. There's still enough people propping it up, like, no, no, it's fine, trust me, because I'm doing pretty good. You know, I get to buy these watches and these clothing and go to these places and drink this expensive alcohol. So, I mean, it's the American dream, right? But everything is so fucking terrible. The closer you look at it, there's a lot of bread and circuses, but don't get it twisted. There's definitely a behavioral sink. That shit is 100% taking place. And I watched again the Mouse Utopia documentary the other
Really?
day, the last night. I had to watch it again because it's so poignant about these rats and how they deteriorated, their behaviors and their psychology deteriorated because of these specific conditions. And the main factor seemed to be overcrowding because they had food and water, they had everything they needed, and the society still collapsed. Right, and they're not even super complex communication. This is real simple shit, and they still managed to collapse because of the effects.
Fuck weirdos.
Yeah, the effects of being so overcrowded. And the difference is in the mouse utopia experiments, the rats were trapped into a certain enclosure. It was a pretty big enclosure, but they couldn't leave. They had to stay in that enclosure to be studied. Now that doesn't necessarily exist right now in humans. That's free, just living out in the world. We're not trapped in any enclosure, not physically trapped in any enclosure, but socially and psychologically, definitely trapped in cities for the most part, big cities, because people feel like they have to be there. They can't leave too far because my job and the commutes and the grocery store, everything is packed into these really dense areas. So the same system is really at play in major cities. We're just not physically trapped in there. So this guy named what's his name, John Calhoun, he coined the term behavioral sink. And he wrote an article called "Population Density and Social Pathology." Now I know we can't get into how horrible and everything that this experiment turned over, but it talked about how infant mortality was high and how the females stopped being able to breed and take care of their young. The male rats started exhibiting homosexuality. I don't know if that's problematic to say, but that's just part of what happened. Some, the hierarchy, the biggest, toughest males was fighting and fucking everybody up. So some of the other males who were lower on the totem pole decided that one of the easiest ways to not get beat up was to offer sexual favors to the males, to the high ranking alphas. And the alphas was like, all right, well, okay, that'll work. They wasn't mad about it. They didn't take no offense to it. They just let it happen. And then the sleepwalkers, they called them, the rats who were just creeping around, not interacting with nobody, not fighting, not having sex, but they just barely existed. They were like the NPCs and shit. The beautiful ones who didn't have no scars and all they did was groom themselves and eat and sleep all day. Like they figured out a way to totally avoid the rest of society, and all they did was eat, sleep, and groom. They didn't even have sex to try to, propagate their genes and shit. They was just like, nah, I'm just gonna be cute. That's all they had to do. But one of the interesting things that I saw, one of the parts that the guy, after he did his experiments, he wrote these other papers, and a lot of people were trying to say that the same thing wouldn't happen to humans because humans can cope with these certain conditions and shit. But I don't agree. But
Can.
what he said was, in his paper, I shall largely speak of mice, but my thoughts are on man, on healing, on life and its evolution. Threatening life and evolution are the two deaths, death of spirit and death of the body. Evolution, in terms of ancient wisdom, is the acquisition of access to the tree of life. So he got a little bit metaphysical in there. But after witnessing what he had witnessed doing two experiments with hundreds and hundreds of rats, and how eventually, with having all of their food and all of their water and all of their shelter needs met, they still managed to extinct themselves inside of this experiment. because of their own social behavior. They stopped having kids. I think it was up to, I think 500, somewhere around 500 days was as long as it lasted, and the colony was essentially dead because the only thing that was left was a couple males, and that's the end of everything right there. But yeah, somewhere around 500 days, uh, mouse society with all food they need, all the water they need, and all the shelter they need, extincted themselves because of social pathology and being in an enclosed space. So I think that's something that people should probably just, smoke a spliff and watch that shit, bro. Take a look at it. Smoke some D8, watch the Mouse Utopia experiments. The shit's pretty amazing. And to listen to how he broke down the different behaviors emerging versus what's happening with humanity right now is fucking eerie, to say the least. To say the least. But the fact that I think it's centered deep with people's, everybody's, a lot of people talk about overpopulation and shit, which is clearly just untrue. If you look at the population density in major cities, you might, if you applied that to the whole world, if every state was as densely populated as California is, or San Francisco or some shit like that, that'd be different. Or New York, that'd be different. But that doesn't. It's not happening across the whole country. It's not even happening across the whole state in most of these places. There's a lot of space.
Yeah, if you put every single human being on the planet shoulder to shoulder, they would all fit in, like, I think it was like the space of like New York.
Or New York or Texas or something. I did hear that before too.
No, but no, it wasn't Texas. It was like one of the smaller spots. I was like, "Are you serious?" It's like, yeah, if you stood us all up, shoulder to shoulder, and provided there was no, we're talking about space, like provided there's no buildings, right? We're not
Right,
just
right.
like we would all fit there. Like as far as is there enough space for us all to exist? Yes. But the way that we're organized based
No.
on what humanity values, that's where the issues are coming from. If you want us all to have an existence that's completely Babylonian Nosferatu, yeah, we're overcrowded. But if you accept that there's just a natural struggle and balance with life that is good for your soul, you know what I mean? Like if you, yeah, lifting weights sucks, is good for your health. You need that resistance. But what was the whole, premise of the Mouse Utopia? Look, you got it all. There is no struggle. This
Right.
is what happens when you don't let nature have that balance and you give people conveniences. And we have all of these conveniences and we all know it. We rant and fucking rave on social media about the expense and fallout of all those conveniences, but the discussion of whether we should have them or not isn't even on the table. And it's like the trade-off maybe just isn't worth it. If it's leading to all this misery and social discontent and all of this alienation and just unfulfilled purpose and relationships with one another, like who the fuck cares? If the maybe it's worth it. Maybe that's the moral of the whole Mouse Utopia shit, is maybe it's worth struggling like the Amish and working a little harder for the food and water and not having it for those conveniences. Maybe having the conveniences leads to something way worse. Maybe it's a happier, more fulfilling life to not have the conveniences and have to work a little hard for it. Maybe that's how nature intended it. And maybe this model that we're running with isn't the best model.
I think there's definitely something to be said for that. Just with our relationship to our food, a lot of people wouldn't be willing to do what it takes to eat the food that they love. They wouldn't be willing to do it themselves, but they love the food, which is a should be a cognitive dissonance. Like, so I understand it because I've had to kill chickens before that we use for food. And if I had to do that every time I ate chicken, I probably wouldn't eat it as often. I just wouldn't. There's no way in the world I'd go out and kill 5 chickens for the next few weeks and then 5 more. Like, I would hate to have to do it. We would do what we had to do. It would probably start to stretch those meals a lot longer. It's like, it's gonna have to last us a little longer, and we have a lot more meals without meat. Unless you raise a cow even then, even in my mind just now as I was drawing this up, I was saying you raise a cow, you send it to the butcher. Even then, I'm gonna send it to the butcher. I'm not gonna do it myself. If I had to do it myself, we might eat beef for a year, and then probably not. The next cow would just be our pet and die of old age. That's some difficult fucking work to do. But I guess that's why you have a village too. There's going to be a guy on the compound that don't give a shit. He'll just slice them up. I'm the butcher. I cut heads off the animals. That's just what I do. But I think if people were closer to that shit, they would change the frequency that they want access to this food. So I think that idea could trickle into a whole bunch of other stuff. If you just had to work harder for it, it would make you put things in a different perspective. And that's just the truth. I think a lot of companies who exist because of our access to leisure and our access to quick and easy shit, I think a lot of them would be pissed off big time if the world started changing in a direction where people were just willing to do more work to get the things that they wanted, and they weren't so attached to the anxiety and the personal judgment that comes along with having things and being places and all. That changes the world right there. Not Molotov cocktails.
You know how many industries evaporate overnight?
Right.
I mean, if you're growing the wheat for your hamburger bun, if you gotta to decapitate the cow for the hamburger meat, if you grew the onions and tomatoes that you're gonna put on it, like you're not gonna have time to watch the WNBA as much as you would love to.
It's a hoax.
You're not going to watch Netflix. Like you're right. There's so much industry that's connected to the fact that oh yeah, you're eating poisonous food. It's quick and it's easy, so you have time to do nothing. Hey, while you're not doing nothing, here's something that I can use to fill that void. Isn't it convenient? You don't even have to get up off your fat ass to put the tape in the deck, to put the DVD in the DVD
Right.
player.
That's
Just
gone.
fucking push this button and stream it and
Right.
fucking hang out. We'll make it as easy as possible. But listen, some of the food is poisonous. You're gonna have problems with your asshole and your intestines, and it's not gonna have any energy. And so all the costs. But don't worry, we have other pills and machines that'll fix you. And it's just the Pandora's box of creating 10 problems by solving one, and always having an answer from technology in the market. Like, holy, here's how we'll solve that. And really, it's like, oh my gosh, it's so complicated. And you know what it's like? It's like if you have a pathway on a field, and you walk from one tree to the other tree, and you're like, I walked from this tree to this tree, and I can do it, but I'm a little tired, I'm a little sweaty, but I made it. It's like, listen, we're gonna dig huge holes through the center of the earth, and we're gonna build this giant edifice, and it's gonna be a tube, and it's gonna shoot you through there, and we're gonna have to harness cobalt because we're gonna need to get lithium for batteries. It's gonna charge it, and it's like, and yo, you'll get from that tree to that tree in a second. So you won't have a lot of time, but we have about 99,000 things to do to preserve this infrastructure and this machinery to get us through this tube from one tree to one tree.
And we're gonna have to cut down both trees to make it
Right,
happen.
right. To defeat the purpose altogether. And it's like, look, maybe it was just better walking from one tree to one tree. Like, yeah, listen, I'll admit to you, it's impressive. Wow. Look how we use the landscape to do all the. Wow, it's cool that we can move that fast. Wow, look how impressive this shit that is. And at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, this is just idolatry. This is just human beings in the circle jerk of
Yep.
their little toys, of what we can do. And it's like, look, at some point, the spell has to get broken, where you're just not impressed with it anymore. Like this shit, it's not as impressive as. And you're right, a slow shift, and maybe that's why there's such a campaign to not let that thought get in people's consciousness. Like, what are you, some kind of rube or weirdo? And that do I? And I know that there was a campaign in America anyway to get people to move from the farms into the cities. There was,
Yeah. Yeah.
actual national propaganda to make people feel like they were goofy weirdos if they didn't come out to the city. It's like, wow, I came to the city, and what happened? Well, I was robbed, I was mugged, some dude said there was this card game with three cards, and I could totally win, and I lost all my money, and I was raped, and it's like all these. But I'm glad I left the farm. It's
But you
like,
got TV dinners now, though.
right, right. But I can eat some shit that kind of resembles the food I'm used to looking at, and this aluminum shit in basically a nuclear powered submarine that sits on my counter that'll hasten the molecules to heat up my food. Fuck
Yeah.
fire. I mean, just anything we can do to not be natural but to be convenient. I'm telling you, it's satanic cyborgs. It's a defiance of the natural order. Fuck the Garden of Eden. We ain't dealing with that limitation. We are gods. We will build this shit. We will make it. People will love it. People will become dependent on, and people will love it more than nature. We'll convince the whole fucking world that they need us and that they love this shit more than the natural shit. You gonna tell me you like that apple more than this fucking three layer molten chocolate cake that's gonna give you instant
Right.
diabetes? You
Right.
really gonna tell me we haven't engineered? You telling me we haven't outdone God? You really gonna tell me we haven't done better? And the response, or the response is a resounding, nah, you guys got it. We love this shit. We will never give away our bread and circus. Give us Netflix, give us poisonous food, give us some meaningful tasks to do so we can get enough tokens to buy the bread and the circuses, and we'll be cool. We'll be cool. We're with it. And
See,
the notion that,
oh,
yeah,
it's just crazy because when you explaining that as a structure, your mind goes to how could anybody native to this planet create this system? Right? It's like if you're from this planet, that seems like something like just aliens would do to fuck you over. But at the same time, why would the aliens be able to create something that you would gobble up so fast if you didn't already have something inside you that would respond to it? Like you can go out to the middle of a jungle or some shit, and you could put a lollipop on the ground. It's very likely that there's a lot of species of animals that won't even fuck with that lollipop.
not
The,
even a little bit.
right? They're not gonna. The flies are not gonna lay no eggs on it. The worms are not gonna come try to eat it. There's not no matter how much, even if they do like sugar, even if it's ants that like sugar, if you got a fucking blue lollipop, they might walk around that shit to find something that's more natural to their environment. But humans, right? You know, they like butter. You give them margarine, they're like, well, fuck it. This is fine. This is all just chemicals and the color yellow. But it works. How do you find? You know where like vanilla, and like strawberry flavoring, blueberry flavoring comes from, the fake stuff.
It's beaver ass gland, isn't it?
How though? Right? Like how? How? Who figured that out, and why does that work?
Listen,
I don't know, dude. Something weird's going on.
I gotta think that whoever fucked that first gorilla to bring AIDS into the world, allegedly, one of their descendants was like, you know what? I haven't eaten out. I haven't eaten out a beaver's ass, and just happened to come.
Like
This beaver's ass tastes like strawberries and vanilla. There's got to be
Terry,
something.
you're not gonna believe this. Hear me out. Hear me out. Okay, I got this beaver. Yeah, it don't make no fucking sense, bro. It don't make no sense. They shouldn't have been able to come here. Like if you eat a slice of chocolate lava cake, an apple tastes like cardboard. It tastes like it's like garbage. It's like why would you ever? If you have access to this, you know how Starbucks has evolved people's taste buds. Like I think I had one of their drinks one time after not having it for a really long time, and it was unbelievable. I was like, this is just all sugar. It's just
Sure.
all sugar. But if you drink it every day, you have no clue. Your body just gets used to it. Your body doesn't keep alarming you the same way. You matter of fact, you could do it in one sitting. You could do it in one sitting. You can go get you a slice of watermelon, a couple strawberries, and some chocolate icing from the grocery store. Eat a spoonful of the chocolate icing. That's not even as much as it would be on a regular slice of cake, so it's not that much. Eat a spoonful of the chocolate icing. Let it sit. Let it settle. fresh the palate up with a cup of water, and then eat a blueberry. And tell me that blueberry doesn't taste like dirt. And it's because you've spiked your sugar intake so much, the body turns the volume down on everything else. Like, no, this ain't shit, bro. You got to get back to that lava cake. It's a wild ass mechanism. But the same thing happens with a lot of stuff, sex, violence. You get desensitized to it. I remember a time in my life when the lingerie section of the Sears catalog would get your fucking heart rate going. You show that to the average 15-year-old now, he's like, no, I need to see double anal.
Right? Where's, where's the
What
joke?
the hell is up with these 35-year-old women with their 90s on? What the fuck is this bullshit? Yeah, everything's evolved. It's evolved and it's evolving in a way that is fucking us over. It's removing us from what should still be our natural environment, not necessarily habitat like you're gonna live in the jungle, but the temperature outside shouldn't be unbearable. Air,
Something that's more
air,
in tune in harmony with nature.
yeah, yeah.
You know?
Air conditioner might be fucking you a little bit.
Absolutely, dude, absolutely. Not using it and going outside more. Like
Wow.
even when it's hot as fuck out, I can tolerate it way more.
Right.
But there was a time like my vitamin D was getting deficient because I was just, doing the cave shit.
Yep.
Just not going outside, it's too hot. And then just going out and getting sun, and it's like, oh yeah, this is, you feel like you got more energy, it becomes more tolerable, but it's almost like somebody or something or just maybe circumstance and just the direction that we're going, there's a technological drive or a drive in the marketplace to get us going in this direction or to know this. But there's for some reason we've just figured out and reversed engineered humans to figure out exactly how to get into every nook and cranny of what makes us tick, psychologically, physically, everything, to change our attitudes about sex, about food, about nature, about happiness, everything. And it increases our dependence on this thing, right? Because now, like you said, the blueberries are growing, they got antioxidants, they're going to help you live longer, but they taste like dirt when you eat chocolate, the chocolate frosting,
Right.
right? And you can't get chocolate frosting without human suffering in factories. But nature is like, yo, dude, I can get you blueberries whenever you want. I can get you blueberries whenever you want. And if you just ate the blueberries, they would taste sweet as fuck. But it's like once you get a taste, the drug dealers,
Yeah.
Babylon is drug dealers. Once you get a taste of the chocolate frosting, now you need us. Now you can't it's so hard, and I've realized that as I've gotten older because I've stayed away from a lot of that shit. And you're right, dude. If I get coffee, I get that shit black. I don't get with the whipped cream and the frosting and all that shit. Like I've had one of those Starbucks drinks before, and you taste it.
Yeah.
Like eating clean, you're like, this shit is complete. I can't fuck with them Arizona iced teas anymore. A lot of people growing up, like I got friends that like didn't know the difference between juice and drink. Like orange drink, orange juice, not the same shit.
No.
Grape juice, grape drink, not the same shit. Like and as you get older, like bitch, I can taste the fucking high fructose corn syrup. I can taste it. This shit is not real. But it doesn't shock the system until you've actually, done your neo Amish shit and disengaged for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? When
Yeah.
you haven't, when you get your mind out of porn, you know what I mean? Your body responds differently. When you get your stomach out of the fucking, the Frankenstein food, your taste buds respond differently. And so all of this shit is all fake. It's all mouse utopia. You know, in that experiment, um, they were kind of trapped in there, you said, right?
Yeah, both of the first one was huge, and it was a large enclosure, and he had way more mice. The second one was a smaller enclosure, but he way like extremely reduced the number of mice before it started. So they had a lot of space considering they had all their food, water, and shelter all broken down, but it
But
was
was
still
there an open
enclosed.
exit?
No, no.
Okay, I would love to see that experiment where to see if anybody would leave.
Mm.
How many mice would leave if there was a door to leave?
Right. I'm
Or
pretty
maybe
sure some of them definitely would leave. They definitely would because there was some that completely checked out of all social interactions, but they couldn't get out. And if they did leave, would they try to come back to eat and drink, or like how would they completely leave? But the one of the most interesting things was how he got them to. Uh, he kind of influenced this behavior a little bit, but the same behavior manifested itself slower on a different thing. So he created this feeder. Half the rats, like on one side of the thing, he put a feeder that had powdered food. And on the other side, he had a feeder that he created himself. It was like a wire mesh fencing, and all the food was in pellets behind the wire mesh fencing. So it took them a lot longer to eat their fill because they had to work it through the little wire mesh, pull the pellets through. And what that did was influence the mice. They spent a lot more time together trying to eat. So they got addicted on some level to eating together. And even if one was hungry, it would go up to the feeder and it wouldn't even try to eat unless there were other mice there.
mm,
So they had to all like group up together and eat. And that didn't happen at first on the powder feeder, but eventually the same thing happened. So he knew it wasn't necessarily his feeder. It just took a lot longer because they didn't have to work as hard for the food. To me, I think you could project that onto any resource, not just the food, but it takes hours and hours and hours to extract these resources, like in a fucking cave cubicle, 8 hours a day, all these people are together because they all working to get the same resource. I think the same thing could be said for that. It's just not directly at food, but yeah, that shit was pretty amazing, man. Everything that he did in there, and that is like you said, that's the only variable that wasn't factored in is would they leave if they could. And I think you'd have to almost introduce the exit like halfway through the experiment. Not at the first when it was really good. You'd have to wait until shit was starting to deteriorate and then start opening little doors or some shit like that at certain hours of the day or however. But that would be interesting to know how many of them would have just walked off.
yeah, like if you made it a bigger system, like where you had it like in a huge field, maybe enclosed by a fence, somebody the and you had the little mouse utopia in the center, but there was surrounding land where if they wanted to kind of escape into the wilderness, they could go out and try to make a life for themselves outside of the convenience. And if once you introduce that convenience into the equation, how many of them would brave going into the wilderness versus sticking close by to the convenience?
Right.
That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, yeah. Because I think the first one, let me see.
Something tells me they'd stay.
I think so
I don't.
too. I think so too. I think for the most part, I think most of them would stay because of the ease of access, and they had already been socially connected to each other for so long in this enclosure. They all know each other. They all having babies, and to get outside of that would be probably frightening, even for a rat. Because well, he said that in the wild, rats that don't fit into or mice that don't fit into the colony go off on their own anyway. So who knows whether they pass their genes on, or if they find another mouse and who didn't fit in and they have babies together, or if it just gets fucking eaten by a snake or something. Who knows? But the ones who don't find their place, or a good enough place in the colonies, they leave. So that does happen in the wild. So but also in the wild, there's a lot of competition for food and shelter and everything else. So would you leave a place that didn't have no real competition for food? As much food as you can have, as much water as you can drink. There's nesting places for everybody. So that would make it a lot more difficult. Well, I'm thinking in human terms, but it seems like that would make it a lot more difficult to just walk off. Because it's like if
Yeah.
I got to fight for food anyway, and y'all motherfuckers don't like me, I might as well just fucking go fight for the food by myself.
Or if there would be neo Amish mice, like would
Right.
they make their own little colony and be like, man, fuck this shit.
Yeah, this shit's horrible. Those guys over there tripping. And then they find out a way to trade some goods and resources and shit. Bring y'all some fresh babies to eat. You know what I'm saying? And we had a couple extra babies this year. We're gonna drop them off at the Mouse Utopia. I know y'all like to eat babies over here, so not. I'm not saying that the Amish are selling their babies either. So just I like the Amish. I think they're doing something real dope over there. I think more people need to get into it. But yeah, man, that mouse Utopia shit is scary. Everybody should give that a check, give that a watch. You know, there's a dope channel on YouTube. This guy Frederick Knudsen. He did a documentary about it, and he seemed to be pretty thorough. So dude's awesome, and that documentary is awesome. Not awesome in a way that you're gonna enjoy and love, but awesome in a way that is extremely eye opening and showing you the connections between just the social pathology, the overcrowding, and how it affected this group of rats. And I don't think it would be too difficult to kind of turn that same eye towards what humans are doing and how we're organizing ourselves right now, and all of the shit that's starting to happen more often, that we're seeing more and more frequently. It could have something to do with our connection to living in these really deeply populated places, and leaving all of our um, leaving so much up to the government and the local infrastructures and shit like that. It might be time to start reclaiming some of the responsibility of your own life. I read something about not long ago that people who live, the further away you live from the city, the people become more self-sufficient, of course, because they don't have the access, but they also go to the emergency room less, they're getting hurt less, they die less, because I think they're just making smarter decisions. I think people in the city just be like, they'll fuck themselves up because they know the ambulance will be here in a minute, the hospital's 5 minutes away, they'll stitch me up. Like, I think somewhere deep down in the brain, yeah, I'll fucking stand on the edge of this balcony. I'll be fine. Even if I fall, they'll take me to the hospital. People who out and living in the woods out in the county be like, let me not do no dumb shit. They won't find me out this motherfucker for 2 weeks. I'll be fucked over here if I screw. So I think it's just a different consciousness of people who take more responsibility for their lives. They do less dumb shit, and they just move slower. They make better decisions. It seems like, and that's just what the data is saying. We
Well,
need, yeah, it's right there. It's right there. If you, they ain't shooting Roman candles at each other on Fourth of July. They're not trying to light M80s and hold them until they're about to blow up and blowing half their fucking arm off. Because only people in densely populated areas do that kind of shit.
can I just say, like, I don't do the fireworks at all, and I don't give a fuck. People could say it's pussy or whatever. That's the dumbest reason to lose your fingers. It's
Right, a
gotta be
firework.
this reason on planet Earth.
Stupid, bro. Every year too. Every single year, from the
Somebody
third to the sixth, there's an influx of people blowing their fucking hands off, running to the emergency room because of fireworks.
basically got a horse hoof for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and a good story to tell. A good
Right.
story to tell. What happened? Oh yeah, Fourth of July, 2021. Like, oh okay, I got you. If that's
Right.
what you want to do with yourself, go for it. The ambulance is right around the corner. They'll be here pretty quick, so you
They'll
can
save.
afford to blow your hand off.
They can't save all your fingers.
Nah,
Yeah.
nah. You're gonna, like you said, you're gonna have a hoof, and it's gonna cost you $73,000. But
Right.
but at least you live close to the Wawa. You got that. You're like 5 minutes from Wawa, so you're good. Don't even worry about it. Yeah, we got some big changes to make, and it seems like with humans' inability to map the way, the only thing that there is for us to do is do it ourselves and project it, enact it, embody it, be that shit, and that's all we got. That's all we got. It's not our responsibility to tell anybody what to do with their lives, but I think it's going above and beyond the call of duty to talk about this shit openly, talk about our plans, and involve people as we move through executing those plans, showing it behind the scenes, not pretending it's impossible, and not completely detaching from humanity in a way that we don't even leave a record of what we did. So I think we're doing the Lord's work.
I agree 1,000%, man.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I think we're gonna wrap it up. I think we did enough heavy lifting for today. We told people about the Mouse Utopia. We told them about the shady
And
origins of syphilis.
oh
So
yeah,
the shady origins of syphilis,
origin.
and and the power and of the open Greek gaze. All of that got broken down today. So, yeah, I think we did enough. I'm gonna find me some grub. I'm gonna find a useless, meaningless show to watch. You know what I've been watching is House.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I knew about the show. You know, it's one of those procedurals. It kind of goes the same way every time. I think it's this. Oh, we almost killed the patient. Maybe it's not that. I think it's this. Oh, last minute. House is like, he'll see somebody in a hallway and they'll have on one red shoe. And he'll be like, hmm. And whatever it is about that one red shoe, he goes back and says, let's test it for encephalitis. Like, what are you talking about, House? It can't be encephalitis. It's unbelievable. I love it. But the dude is the biggest asshole because he knows what he knows, and he's not going to let you trick him into thinking he isn't as smart as he is. So the more you doubt me, the more these people will flatline and die. Just do what I told you to do because I'm the fucking man. And I just like his connection to his own ability. He don't give a shit what you think, bro. You just got here. You've only been a doctor for 7 years. You're a piece of shit. You know nothing. Do what I told you to do. And I like that commitment. I think it's a lot we could learn from being committed to your own skill set. So that's why I'm watching House. He don't give a fuck what nobody thinks.
It's,
And he's winning. Nobody's dying on his watch. You know, he's winning.
I only saw like one episode. I might have seen two. I think he has like a drinking problem.
Yeah, and a cane. And I think he might be addicted to prescription pill. All kinds of shit.
Or something like that. But the one episode, it was like she was like a pop star or something, and if they found out she had like testicular cancer because she was like a hermaphrodite or some
Oh
shit,
shit.
and like her manager or something was sleeping with her, and he was like all grossed out by it. It was just really disturbing, and I was like, it kind of just set me on my way. I
Yeah,
was
it's
like,
probably the later seasons.
you
They
broke
had to
me.
get more intricate. They had to get more intricate. They needed some extra plot twists and shit. I'm only on season one, so everything's pretty basic right now.
Okay, cool. Well, I ruined one of the later episodes for you, but it was pretty gross. So enjoy.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop into that. But yeah, man, I appreciate you making time. Always dope to link and work these things out. This shit is definitely gonna be written into our religious constitution once we get our compound set up. This is the Bible being written right now. We know what we're gonna do, and we're gonna show y'all how to do it. If you're interested, you don't have to do it if you're not interested. But if you want to live outside the machine, you might want to start checking some of these episodes, even the ones in the posterity. Go back, run them all back. We break it down. This is pretty simple. Let's get out here and recreate what the Amish have. See if we can't make something out of it.
Yeah, you can't fight the machine. You just have to stop piloting the machinery. That's it. That's how it works.
That's it. That's it.
Brick,
Well,
brick by brick. I appreciate you too, brother. Always a pleasure, man.
absolutely, man. Enjoy the rest of the evening. I'll talk to you soon.
Peace.
Peace.
Metaphysics is going to have to be the quote unquote religion of tomorrow. If it isn't, you're fucked. Totally and absolutely. Metaphysics, if it isn't, you're fucked. Absolutely. Totally and absolutely. Metaphysics, if it isn't, you're fucked. Totally, absolutely. Religion of tomorrow. Religion of tomorrow. Religion of tomorrow.